Happy Friday. Welcome to the end of the week. And if you made it through the week, congratulations. If you're looking forward to the weekend, I feel you. Hi, Rob. Welcome in. How's your week been? I feel like some of us probably have FOMO about the Atlanta Pen Show. Wish I was there. I hope everyone's having fun if throughout the weekend, if they are going down. Good morning, GHP. Good morning. Dustin, quack quack. Can I get a quack quack? It has been long, Rob. Yeah, you have 20 minutes left of work so you can go home. Oh, good. And you can enjoy your weekend and kind of chill. Big FOMO, right? Oh, I wish we were all going. But the good thing about pen shows is that they are throughout the year. So if there is one close to you or one that you can get to, and there's also stationery events and planner events. And yeah, it's just kind of nice to hang out with people who understand our geekiness for hobbies, for pens, for stationery. It's kind of nice to connect with people who understand, how into it we are, right? But I understand. So welcome in. We are going to talk about fountain pens and stationery and all that stuff. So you have 2 kids under 2, Rob? There is no chilling out. Listen, I feel you. I totally get that. I have twins who are now 6, though. But when they were 2, I totally get it. Oh, Rob, thanks for joining the club. Thanks for the sub. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. But yes, only chaos, right? It gets better, though. It gets better as they get older. Morning, Fountain Pen News. Welcome in. Hi, how are you? How's everyone doing? You get Little Craft Fest in 3 weeks, GHP. That's awesome. I have seen a lot more about Little Craft Fest and just like people being excited to go. And I love that there's more stationery events happening, especially like the Chicago Stationery Fest and all the excitement around that, and Yoseika's Stationery Fest last year. I feel like people are more into like the crossover too. If you're into pens, going to a stationery fest or a stationery event is kind of like, it makes sense. It's like a natural sort of like, if you're using pens, then you probably like paper and notebooks and all sorts of different accessories, right? So I totally get that. Baby number 2 coming May 28th. Dustin, congrats. That's amazing. May 28th will be here, or, whenever it sort of happens around there, we'll be here before you know it. I can't wait for May. Yeah, GHP, you've been there and done that too? Yours are 18 months apart. They're 25 and 27 now. I feel like, yeah, once you sort of get through like the first few years, it's kind of just like enjoy the different stages that they go through and stuff, right? It's really fun. I mean, mine are, in grade school and they're still chaotic. So Little Craft is really quite the intersection of crafting, stationery, pens, and ink. Yeah, I agree, GHP. And I've also really enjoyed seeing more stationery brands make the crossover to pen shows. Like even just the past few pen shows that I've been to in California, in LA and SF. I've seen more and more stationery brands like stickers and washi and that kind of stuff there. And I love that crossover. Like I think there's a lot of similarities between, people who are really into pens, but they're also really into the aesthetics of like journaling and, having a traveler's notebook or plotter or whatever, sort of system that they work in, making it look nice and enjoying the process of journaling and writing, right? So I totally get that. And I love seeing like all the different events that are happening and people getting really excited about it. Also brings FOMO, but that's okay. I'll get over it. 18 months difference for you guys, Rob. Yeah, it's an adventure for sure. Yeah, it's a ride. It's a wild ride. Oh, Dustin, your wife is hardcore nesting. Yeah, are you doing any nesting? Because Yeah, when I was having my twins, my husband definitely was hardcore nesting, just getting everything ready and super excited, of course. So I can totally see that. Well, I'm glad that you're all here on a Friday. I feel like Fridays are a chill time. Unless you're like Rob and you're at work just like trying to make it through the next couple of hours. But yeah, I feel like Friday is a great time to do art, to be creative, to just sort of wind down from a busy week, a stressful week maybe. And for me, Fridays are kind of that time to take stock of, what's around, like what's on your desk, what is something you've been really excited about, what are some of your recent like stationery hauls, and take some time to play with that stuff. My wife is doing enough for both of you. Yeah, Justin. Well, it's your second, so she's been through it. She knows what to expect and how to, do it the next time, how to do it differently the next time. And yeah, congrats. That's so exciting. Super exciting. Now you're gonna have 2 ducklings. So today, first, I'm going to share a little bit about me. If you're new here or if you just sort of joined the stream or you're watching the replay on YouTube, thank you so much. I'm Corolla on socials, Instagram, everywhere else. I'm known as From Corolla. That's my username, and I am into stationery. I'm into all kinds of stationery. But also fountain pens. I'm a big fountain pen enthusiast. I love fountain pen inks. And I love the crossover between our tools, such as fountain pens, and using that for art purposes and being creative with it. So one of the things that I love doing is painting, especially with watercolor paints or fountain pen inks. And my style is more of an abstract style because that's the best way I can find myself really enjoying my tools and having fun and being creative and just playing. And that's kind of my biggest thing about stationery is if I'm not having fun with it and I'm not playing with my stationery, then I tend not to enjoy it so much. So I like to encourage other people to be creative and play with their stationery as well. So thank you for joining me. And today, what we're going to do actually is last week, I did this on my Wednesday stream, I think. I asked people to pick a random number of ink vial. And if you don't know my ink vials, I mentioned this on the Pen Addict podcast when I was a guest last week. And I sort of share about this on YouTube and elsewhere when I can. But what I usually do when I get a new ink bottle is I add a little bit of that ink into an ink vial. And then I number it and I keep a list of all of my inks. And I do this because it encourages me to play with the ink more versus if I, put that ink bottle away, I find myself reaching for it less just because it's sort of put away and I don't want to take it out and get it out just to paint with it. So me having them in ink vials actually encourages me to play with them a little bit more. And usually during a week, I'll pick sort of 5 inks that I put on my desk. And GHP, thanks for joining the club. Thanks for your sub. I appreciate you. There are some emotes, by the way. I keep forgetting to mention this, but there are some free emotes. I was playing around and created some that have a cat on it in honor of my cat Bayless, who's 17 years old, and he's a tuxedo cat. And so I did a little bit of drawing and hand lettering on them. So you have like hello and bye. And then you also have some sub emotes, which are basically my floral paintings that I, yeah, exactly, Italene. Thank you. Some of my floral paintings that I just digitized like into stickers and also emotes. And so yes, so back into my ink vials. This is how I kind of store them if I want to play with them. After I paint with them and I sort of play around with my inks, like, if I run out of ink, sometimes I will refill them with the same ink, but sometimes I'll clean them out and then I'll take out an ink bottle that's sort of just been sitting there, right? Like we do this sometimes. We buy inks, we use them a few times, and then they sort of sit in whatever storage you use. For me, I'm using a drawer, so I keep them all in a drawer, but that also means that sometimes they're out of sight. So out of sight, out of mind for me. And this is kind of my way of pulling them out. So I do have some sample vials that people have sent me also on here. As you can see, I try and keep my samples down to a little bit of a manageable number. That being said, these are all like basically inks that I own or people have given me samples, and sometimes I put them into vials. So out of 69, we're gonna do this. If I will paint with 6 inks. So if you want to just put a number 1 to 69 in the chat, I'll take the first 6 numbers. And then we'll paint with that ink, and I'll show you just to have Rob going for 69 right away. 25. Yeah, and I'll just kind of show you how, you can have fun with inks and not feel the pressure to pick out inks and really plan on what to do with it. It really is as easy as just picking out a few inks that may be new or that you want to play with, and then just having fun with it. So 69.25, 34, 16, 1. All right. So I'm going to tell you which ones they are. And I probably will pick out, if we don't have a green, I'll probably pick out a green to do the leaves. So what we have is, one is Ferris Press Ambrosia Indulgence. It's a shimmer, and it's kind of like a really nice warm orangey brown color. Then we have 16, which is Colorverse. Oh, this is the Colorverse ink that they did for the SF Pen Show in 2024, last year. And it's called San Francisco Bay. And it's like a really nice dark teal color. And then we have Pennonia. Oh, Pennonia and Amarillo Stationery, Rosa Mexicano. This is like a really bright, beautiful magenta color. Then 25 is Tom Studio, Neptune, which is also a teal. And then 69, the last one here, is Ferris Press, Stroke of Midnight. And it's kind of like this really dark midnight color, like a blue-black color with some shimmer as well. 37, Jessie Penn getting in there. So that will be my last color. 37 is Robert Oster Violet Clouds. It's a shimmer ink that's like a lavender purple. Very, very pretty. Yay, awesome. Rob, I have 2 new pens and 3 inks arrived today, which I hope I have time to try out tonight. I hope so too. Do you want to share which pens and inks you got? Omaha, is there a beginner set for just starting out? Have you thought about making kits? That's a good question. There isn't a beginner set or kit that I offer. And I feel like you can put it together if you have a few items. But that being said, I have done a workshop at the SF Pen Show. And when I did that, I provided the things that you would need, like the tools, the supplies, the ink, that you would need to sort of get started. So I feel like most of us probably have some of these items available. It's sort of like having them in a place that you can reach for them, which makes it more, like you would do something if it was accessible, right? And so some of the challenges that we face when we're trying to create or when we try and do art is that not only do we have to set aside time to do it, especially when, you have kids or you have other things that sort of your responsibilities take you away from doing art. And I feel like if you have supplies that you can just reach for really quickly, and what I do takes like 5-10 minutes. So in terms of timing, you just have to set aside like 15 minutes, have your supplies where you can sort of reach for it. And I'll show you what I'm going to use so that if you do kind of want to put things aside where you can do it later, it's not that hard to do. So, but for me, art is never a waste of time. So I feel like if you could put aside 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and you have the supplies ready to go, then you're good. You're good to go. That Rosa Mexicano better come back one day. Is it sold out? Yeah, I feel like it was sold out, and I wasn't sure if Eric was bringing it back, but it is such a nice color. Do you have Teranishi guitar? Gentle green. I do. Yes. Dustin, I do have that. Wait, let me get it. That is actually one of my favorite greens. So thank you for that, Dustin. And yes, that would make a great green for leaves. So let's use that, because I don't know if I have it in a vial, but that's okay. I do have some greens in here. Oh, Rob, you're getting a Twisby Eco in purple transparent and a Waterman Tomb Raider pen. Inks are all Diamine. Turquoise, Hope Pink, and Majestic Purple. Oh, awesome. I like Diamine inks. I think they're reliable. And for you, right, UK, it's easy to get for you, so. And Twisby Eco in purple transparent. Is it the Purple Glow or... I have the Purple Glow, but yeah, any Twisby Eco. Reliable, good pens. Sounds great. I have a Drill Lock and a Kakamori that I want to try to integrate in with as well. Yes. Yeah. I'll just need something to put and on a brush. Yes, so I will show you, I'll show you what I'm actually going to use today in terms of tools. So we have our inks. I'll put this aside. Actually kind of helps that I'm using my standing desk, which last time I was sitting, so I had it lower, but today I'm going to try and stand during the stream, because then I can kind of move around as well. But what I'm going to use are obviously the inks, and I like to use watercolor paper if I'm just kind of, well, for two reasons. So one, if you're kind of playing around with water and ink, watercolor paper is a great paper to use because it handles water really well, obviously, right? So don't be afraid to like throw water on to dilute your ink. It absorbs a lot of ink. If you just use a paintbrush and ink, it will sort of just like saturate. So adding a little bit of water helps to dilute the ink and also kind of spread it around on the paper. And you can really get a feel for the ink properties that way. The other reason why I like to use watercolor paper is because it does sort of reflect your inks really well. So if you are thinking of doing art and things like that, if you want to scan it after, or just, you know, just sort of have it, right? You could frame it, or you can gift it to someone too. So watercolor paper overall is a great paper to use. The second thing that you could do is use Tomoe River paper. So a lot of us have TRP planners, or you can also get notebooks that have blank Tomoe River paper. And so my kind of go-to for painting, if I'm not using watercolor paper, is the Everyday book from Galen Leather, which is TRP. And it handles inks really well. I paint on one side because, as you can see on... it does kind of bleed through sometimes, especially if you're putting down a lot of ink or a lot of water, but overall it handles it really well. So, and then it gives you that really satisfying crinkle sound and crinkle feel. So that's kind of like, and it also contains everything, right? So this is kind of like a sketchbook type situation where you can just like take the notebook, some ink samples with you if you want to paint somewhere, and then you're good to go. So either of those for paper. Let's see. Oh, transparent is a different model, Rob? Okay, cool. You were torn though. I mean, yeah, there's so many options when you're talking about a Twisby Eco. Good morning, Miss Marilyn. How are you? How are you today on a Friday? So the other thing for paintbrushes, Omaha, and anyone else who wants to try this is I use nondescript, sort of generic paintbrushes for inks, because then I don't kind of feel the pressure to be precious with them. And that way you can also get just like a bunch of different sizes, a bunch of different shapes if you want to play with that. I got like a set of them, right? So there's like a few of them here. But the good thing is some of these like big brushes that have a lot of bristles, you can use them for foliage when you're painting, or if you're going to do this with like urban sketching style or anything else really. The bigger paintbrushes are great for putting down a lot of ink, if you're doing a backwash maybe too, and then incorporating water into your painting. So these are like kind of my go-to round paintbrushes. My everything hurts. I went to Disneyland yesterday. Oh, yeah, I totally get that. But did you have fun? Because that's important. Oh, thanks, Rob, for coming. Have a good one and enjoy your weekend and enjoy the chaos. So that's in terms of paintbrushes. And usually what I do is I pick out one paintbrush per ink that I'm going to play with. So if there's 6, then I usually use 6 paintbrushes, because then I can kind of jump back and forth between the different inks that they're kind of assigned to. But you could also use a water brush, which if you've been to Brad's stream on Twitch or Olive Octopus, they like to use paint or water brushes. Because you can just like, dip it into a water, a little container that has water, and rinse out the ink and then use a different ink. It's totally fine. And also the great thing about using a water brush is it holds water in it. And so you can kind of squeeze a little bit of water onto your paper if you want. But for me, I'm good just using a jar with a little bit of water in it. And then you can use a paint palette. This is like from the dollar store, but you can find them elsewhere too. And usually what I'll do is I'll transfer a little bit of the ink that I'm going to play with onto the palettes. And the reason why I do this is because you can then blend on the palette if you want. Like you can mix inks, or if you accidentally happen to dip the paintbrush into the wrong ink, it's totally fine, right? Like you can rinse this out and put more ink into it if you want. And then also, once you're done, just rinse it out. And that way you don't contaminate your vials or your ink bottles with bristles and other particles. And then so to transfer the inks, you can use pipettes. You can use different ways of getting inks onto your palette. Also make sure you have a shop cloth or a paper towel or something to sort of, if you put a lot of water onto your paintbrush, you can always sort of take some of that excess water off by dabbing it on the paper towel or your shop cloth or whatever you're kind of using. And that's it in terms of painting with inks. So you mentioned Kakimori nib, Omaha. I like using a Kakimori nib for drawing on top of the painting once it's dry. And I use the Kakimori pigment ink, just black ink. But it's pigment ink, so it will sit on top of whatever you painted with your regular fountain pen inks or watercolor paints or anything else. And I find that it's very, like it sort of sits on top and it looks really nice, like it's very bright and sort of captures attention to what you're drawing. And so those two are my combinations for drawing. But again, you can use a fine liner, which is what I do in my workshops, is I use a fine liner. And you can also use a glass dip pen or any other kind of dip pen, really. And then the other thing I like to use is a fountain pen, right? Like you can use a fountain pen that just has black ink or whatever, nondescript sort of color in it. Or you can use one that has a pigment ink in it or something, like platinum carbon black or any of one of those inks. And they're kind of great to draw on top because using a pigment ink to draw on top of something you've already painted tends to, like, it doesn't activate your ink again. It doesn't blend in with what you've already painted. It does sit on top and it's waterproof, so it's not gonna water down, basically. That's what you were thinking. You had way too much fun, Miss Marilyn. It's all good. We deserve some fun, don't we? Have you tried or heard anything about the Colorverse shuttle dip nib? Yes, great question, GHP. You're curious to learn how it compares to the Kakamori. So I did give it a try at the California Pen Show because Olive Octopus brought them with her, and so I tested them out. If you haven't seen the Colorverse shuttle, it's basically like a smooth kind of dip pen similar to the Kakamori, but it has like an ink holder. I don't know if that's sort of the way to ink, a circular sort of indent where the ink can sit. And I used it, and you do, you sort of dip it. It's the same way of using a Kakamori nib, but I found that it wasn't as smooth, maybe. A little reservoir hole. Okay. Yes, a reservoir. And I don't know, I think the best way of saying it is it didn't blow me away. Like it didn't sort of, I didn't think that it was so different from the Kakamori nib that I had to like try it or give it a go. And so I've seen a few reviews about the shuttle afterwards, and it does look interesting. So if you want to kind of play around with that, it sounds like it's cool. It sounds like you can have fun with it. I just didn't find it so different that it needed to have both. Dustin, you have both. The shuttle in aluminum is finer in line and a bit sharper than the Kakamori steel. Oh, you smoothed yours out with a micro mesh. That's a great idea. Oh, and now it's great. That's actually a great idea. So yeah, okay. So when I used it, I too found it a little sharp. I just didn't find it as smooth as my Kakamori nib. And so, but yes, if you can smooth it out, that's a great idea to do it too. Okay, so that's kind of it, Omaha. That's kind of like the gist of what I use for, what I use for painting. So make sure you do have something to sort of protect your work area as well, in case you do have ink spills or water spills and stuff. Good to know. I'm having trouble making the Kakamori brass do exactly what I want all the time. Just haven't learned. Yeah, the brass Kakamori too. I've kind of, I haven't tried it, but I have heard that it might be causing problems to a few people. So it does kind of depend on what you prefer. But part of the Kakamori nib that I have found out is that you do have to play around with it a little bit to get a feel for the different angles and what sort of works for you, like what angle you use or feel comfortable using, and what kind of line you want to get. So obviously, like the way you angle your Kakamori nib will sort of give you different angles and lines, and finding the right one is kind of the trick. And just kind of playing around with it too. I know a lot of people do swatches, like they use the Kakamori nib for swatching. And again, it's like how you sort of angle it will give you a smoother line. And I've used it for quite a while now, and I still have to, play around a little bit with it to get the right angle. So, and that's part of the fun of painting or drawing with different tools like a Kakamori nib, is that you get a feel for, you know, how to hold it and what line you're going to get. And it's a no pressure, low pressure sort of way of doing that, of experimenting with it. And then the other thing too is kakimori nib holders. Like I've used, you can get sort of regular ones from stationery shops, where if they hold a calligraphy nib, then they should be able to hold a kakimori nib, especially if they have something to sort of grip. And these ones are from River City Pen Company. This one was made in collaboration with Amarillo Stationery. So Eric had it made by Rich. And so if you want to, you know, switch out your nib and put it into a different holder or anything like that, I'm just going to show you, like gently, you know, just kind of pop it out. And then you have this grip. And Rich puts these plastic or... I guess they're kind of plastic silicone grips. So they're really soft on your nibs. And they won't rust. That's kind of the key selling point for these, is that the grips don't rust, and so they won't rust on your nib and ruin it. You have a clutch pencil from Kaweco. Oh yeah, you use the Kaweco one. That's awesome. Yeah. So there are a few sort of like, yeah, as long as they have a grip for your nib, it should be fine. Yeah, for the aluminum one. That's awesome. And you can find ones that are relatively inexpensive too. And I have a few for your aluminum, your brass, and anything else. Next thing you know, you have a bunch of nibs that you can play around with. I do really like this Pennonia Amarillo ink. Rosa Mexicano. This is really, really pretty bright magenta, especially for painting, especially for like creating art with, because it's so bright and fun. I've used the Tachikawa. That's what I was trying to remember, GHP. That's what I had initially, like when I first started playing around with dip nibs, is I had the Tachikawa, and I had a cap with it too, which is like super handy. I wish nib holders came with caps, but it's okay. And you're now using a 5mm clutch pencil that I got from the Gentleman Stationer. Oh, cool. That's what I've been using for. I'm still trying to decide exactly what I want all my swatching to look like. Yeah, so you were using it for swatching? Yeah, it's super handy to do that. And then you can use the fine point to write the ink, right? So it's really handy for that. Lily Forest, hi! Beautiful things you do here. I enjoy a lot. I did already my first ink flower painting. Oh, Lily, that's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you so much for being here and for doing this. I'm glad that it inspired you to try it out. That's super fun. How is the Tachikawa? Yeah, it's like personally, I liked it. Let me see if I can. So this is what I initially used. And it has this cap, which is really handy. And it has that same sort of plastic silicone grip. And it also has this grip for like when you're writing and stuff. And initially I was using this with calligraphy nibs. And so it was really handy. Oh, you found it a bit loose? Yeah. That's interesting. So let's add this one. Hi, Jack Toy. Hello. How's it going? How have you been? And are you feeling FOMO over not being at the Atlanta Pen Show? Just like the rest of us. Wish I was at another pen show. I'm so happy that people are gonna get together and see each other, and then we'll find out, or we'll hear all about it next week. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to swatch these inks on the side of my paper here, just so I remember what inks I used, because then you can go back and you can always see, you know, what you used and combinations that you liked. Sometimes I use combinations that I like to ink up my fountain pens. So if you're into like doing a palette for your currently inked, this is like a great way of sort of playing around with it first, and then figuring out what palette you like, and you know, maybe you're into like seasonal palettes or monthly different palettes. And then when you're blending inks together and having a little bit of fun with mixing them and getting different combinations and different colors too, it's kind of fun to look back and see like what were the base inks that you started with. If I don't think about it, then I don't miss it. Yeah, I hear you. It's fun to hear people prepping for it though. Yeah, for sure. So you stay busy doing other things. So we're busy painting and having fun with inks, because that way we're not thinking about everyone else being at the show. But I can't wait to hear how it went and see photos. All right. So these are the inks that we're going to paint with. And all right, let's see. This one is Teranishi Gentle Green. Which is one of my favorite greens. It's just so nice. And this one was Colorverse. San Francisco Bay. So that is a San Francisco Bay one, which is really pretty. It's a nice teal color. Here's the clutch pencil that I'm using now, the mahogany stain finish. Oh, awesome. Let's see. Decline that. Oh, cool. Oh, that's awesome. I like that finish. I like the wood look. I just looked in the mirror. Well, we're all just getting through the week, and if you had fun yesterday, Miss Marilyn, then it's all worth it. So Pennonia and Amarillo. Then we have Tom Studio Neptune. And then Robert Oster Violet Clouds. So a real mix of different ink brands. I love it. And some shimmers in there as well. So let's see. Let me just order these paintbrushes. And then we'll start with, I usually start with the light colors and work my way over to the darker shades, because then you can layer inks on top of each other just like you would with paint. And layering darker colors on lighter colors is a lot easier than trying to layer light colors on dark colors, because if you use a dark color first and you want to add a light color to it, you either have to really thin it out and dilute it with water to pull out some of that dark saturation, or you have to wait for it to dry, and then you kind of have to just sit the lighter color on top. But if you have a light color and you put that down first, then it's a lot easier to mix inks on top of it and mix inks with it. So I'm actually going to start with this Robert Oster Violet Clouds and just kind of put it down, which is always like the most intimidating thing, is to put like your first, just put something down. And so you can dip it in water, add a little bit of water to kind of dilute it out a little bit, and then use that to continue painting. And so you get like the lighter version, the lighter shade of this color. And so you might not get all the shimmer or, you know, all the other properties with it, but it's kind of a nice way of seeing like the sort of, you know, just how that color starts is the most diluted version of it. And I just kind of place different colors or different shapes around the paper, just because we're going to kind of build this out with all the different ink colors, and it will look more like everything's sort of distributed a little bit more evenly. So on top of that, I'm going to include the Rosa Mexicano, which, if you haven't seen this ink, when it dries, it is gorgeous. Clutch pencils are a menace. They're all so cute. I can't not buy them. Plain water, going out to get more clutch pencils now that we've looked at them. Luckily, I already have all the ones we've mentioned so far. Oh, good. So there you go. We're just mentioning what you have, so it's okay. But now that I've looked at it, I still have the window open. I'm going to take a look at it later. So thank you for that. I'll have to make a video of the shenanigans. Yeah, Miss Marilyn. Or you have to use gouache. Yes. Yeah, then more color on top of the white gouache. Yeah. I mean, there are ways definitely to if you put a light color first or a dark color first and you want to lighten it up a little bit, there are ways of sort of lightening it up. But it's a little bit easier just to start with a light first, or, you know, start again. It's okay. And I kind of like adding, I do love blending inks together. And that's kind of like the next, like when you're leveling up on painting with fountain pen inks, is like, don't be afraid to kind of put colors on top of other colors. And it just gives it like a little bit more interest. It also lets you sort of play with inks in a way that you probably can't if you're just inking them up in a fountain pen, right? Unless you're going to take the risk of mixing inks together and then inking up a fountain pen with that mixed ink. And I know people who do that, and it's awesome. But for, you know, some of us who would rather just mix them on paper, don't be afraid of sort of layering them. And like, they can be standalone colors for sure. But if they kind of work together, especially if we're using shades that complement each other a lot, you know, don't be afraid to sort of mix them in. And then you can always add a little bit more water if you want to blend them a little bit. And so adding a little bit of water, especially on watercolor paper, is that even if your ink is dry, adding a little bit of water on top will will sort of get the ink back. Yeah. It'll wetten the ink again, so you can work with it a little bit more, right? If you want to thin it out, or if you would just want to add a little bit of water and then add an ink and just kind of watch it flow. It's mesmerizing. I don't know if it is for you, but it's mesmerizing when you add a little bit of ink. I'm going to try and show you. And just sort of watch it move around like this and kind of pool. And then you'll get a lot of that shading and shimmer coming through. And that's why I call it fun, because like just spending some time to play with the inks and mixing them a little bit is like the fun part of it for me, is watching them play together and letting them flow. Oh, which ink do you want fountain pen use? The Rosa Mexicano? Also makes your water look very scrumptious, like juice. Do we know if Eric is making more of that ink? I have heard a lot of people say that they love the shade. Or maybe Eric will make something similar to that as part of his new line of inks, of the Amarillo Stationery line. Maybe that's what we need to bug him. Ask him to do that. I see, Lily, I see how you make more and less saturated spots. Do you have already a concept or certain pattern in mind, or shall it be random and surprising? The second part, random and surprising. I never know what it's going to end up looking like. What I'm sort of concentrating on a lot more than what I want it to look like is basically the how I'm sort of putting it down on paper. So where they are on the paper, and distributing the colors not evenly, but sort of around. And so I kind of know that I want it to look like the colors are everywhere. So if it's a bouquet, for example, I'm kind of thinking like these flowers will be all over the bouquet. And you don't have to do it that way. Like you could do it, you know, go in order and just do like inks on top of each other. That's another way to sort of keep it consistent maybe. But I kind of, the way I'm looking at it is just putting the inks down in different spots on the paper, and doing it that way too lets me play around with it a little bit more. So if I have, you know, a purple flower or a purple sort of outline here, I can add a little bit of pink, but I don't have to. I can also, like in this one, I can add another color. And then that way you can swatch the different combinations of your inks. It's just, yeah, like I would say go with what feels sort of natural in the moment for you. Either distributing them evenly throughout the page, if that's something you like, or doing it in order. If you're kind of like, I just want to see, the different inks in sort of like a rainbow order or something like that. And once you sort of have it down, like then you can kind of see, take a look at your inks, take a look at your colors, and then see like what combination you might want to play with. Like maybe these two would look really good, right? So let's add a little bit of this teal in. And yeah, intuitive painting. Yeah, exactly. That's what it is, Lily. Intuitive painting. And I like doing it on like live streams or in a workshop or something like that, because it kind of takes you out of the mindset of sitting there and spending a lot of time thinking about it. I'd rather not think about it, because if I overthink it, then it's not going to turn out. It might turn out great, but like I find that it turns out a lot better and more surprising if I don't focus too much on what I'm actually doing. So definitely ask me questions if you're kind of curious about what I'm doing, but I'm not paying a lot of attention to it. I'll mix from the same brand or type, GHP. Yeah, Birmingham Penco inks will mix awesomely. Oh, that's good to know. Yes, that is a good, that's a good sort of baseline for mixing inks, is using the same brand, because at least you can they should be consistent in terms of the kind of formulas they use, and how they sort of mix those inks. So for you to mix it on your own, like with two different inks, using the same brand is a good way of doing it. Yes, Rosa Mexicano. Fountain pen use. I think we need to ask Eric to make this kind of shade from his line. All right, so the green I'm going to save for later. I'm going to add a little bit of that teal. So, and you can also add a little bit of water into your palette. I may have said that earlier, but you can add a little bit of water into your palette to dilute your inks a little bit. If they are like, if you're using really dark inks or ones that are like heavy sheeners or things like that, you can always do that too. And once you add them on the paper, you'll see if they're very saturated, then you can add water on top of them to thin them out a little bit. Or if you need to mix them with a lighter shade. And so as soon as you touch one of the other inks, if they're a little bit wet, they'll start to mix and blend together. Or if the other ink is dry, you can add a little bit of water and that will help mix them. Basically what I'm doing with the paintbrush is I'm just putting these sort of oval type strokes, paintbrush on paper. And if it's a thinner paintbrush like this one, then you can sort of use that shape and just kind of put down these little shapes on the paper, which will give it a little bit of a contrast to some of your thicker paintbrushes, right? Which will put down inks in sort of blobs, right? And so doing it this way will not only later when we draw on top give you a little bit more of an idea of what those shapes could be, but it also just from the get-go, it gives you a little bit of a contrast and a little bit more interest. And so when you're layering on top of your other ink blobs or your other outlines, it kind of looks like there's like different petals maybe, or shadow, or just, you know, like some petals have like darker on the bottom, and they sort of get lighter as you get to the top of the petal. And it's kind of fun that way too. You'll ask him fountain pen use, yeah. Purple and teal combine so well. Yes, yeah. So once you sort of play around with that, you'll kind of see what looks good. And it depends on your sort of aesthetics, like what colors you sort of tend to gravitate towards, or shades of them too. Oh, you have most of them from Birmingham. Yeah, it does sound very fun. It does sound very fun. So let's add a little bit of the darker teal, which is Tom's Studio Neptune. And it's this one, so... Runaway paintbrush. So we'll add a little bit of that darker teal on top of the lighter teal. Ooh, it's a very saturated teal. Just really nice. And I would say too, if you're painting with inks on watercolor paper, feel free to sort of like angle your paintbrush in different ways as you're kind of moving around the paper. I think there's a little bit of movement involved as well. So you're not like along the lines of overthinking something. Making yourself constantly sort of move around the paper is a great way of not getting stuck in a spot. And so like one of the questions I got at the workshop, and also people just generally ask me, is like, there's sort of this block that we put on ourselves in terms of like doing this sort of abstract art, is like, what if I make a mistake? Like, what if, you know, I put down ink or paint and it just looks really ugly, right? Like, what if it's a blob? What do I do? Or what if I mix inks and it's just like a black, like dark sort of something that I can't do anything with? So to that, I would say either you can do a few things to fix it or make it look more desirable to you. And one way, of course, is add a little bit of water, thin it out. It's not that big of a deal, especially if you do it on watercolor paper, because it will dry and it will be okay. And you can add more water to reactivate the ink and keep moving it around. You can also add water and dab it with a paper towel and pull out some of that ink or paint from the paper. And again, that will sort of desaturate what you have on the paper. If you mix two inks and the color just is like, ooh, this is like swamp water or brown, and you know, you just don't want that color in your painting or whatever, again, you can layer on top another ink or paint and make it look like it's sort of the shadow or it's sort of in the background. So if any of that doesn't work, you sort of have added water, you've, you know, tried to pull out some of that ink, and you're still kind of like, oh, this is so ugly, I would say move on. Like, part of having fun with inks and paint is giving yourself that permission to like just accept what it becomes. And I think focusing or like hyper focusing on something that you perceive as a mistake, probably when you're done, like in the long run or, you know, at the end, is not going to seem that big of a deal. And that's part of the fun of doing abstract pieces, is that it doesn't have to look like something for it to look good. And a lot of times, like I said, a lot of times, you know, I will start painting something and then I'm kind of like, oh, you know, it's taking a turn. It's taking a different sort of path than I expected it to. And that's okay. In the end, it's going to look fine. It's going to look great, because part of the end product is the journey of getting there. And if you're having fun doing it, then you're going to be surprised and you're going to be happy about what it turns out to be, because it will show how much fun you had with it. That looks awesome. Oh yeah, bye Dustin. I'll see you later. I'll catch you on a different stream or somewhere else. Have a good weekend and congrats again, and happy nesting. Quack quack. I used a little bit of iron ore to darken antique aubergine, just enough to make it more pleasant to work with in a narrower nib. Yeah. While it's still... Oh, that's cool, GHP. Yeah, and iron ore is a really dark color too. So that works really well. One of my favorite things is to drop red, yellow, and blue inks and drops on a watercolor paper, let it dry, then dip a very wet paintbrush and letter a word through it. Oh, that's awesome, Miss Marilyn. It's sort of a rainbow. Yeah, that's so fun. And there's like great ways of having fun with the different inks and paints that you're using. So that is a green. Okay, so let's use some of this Ferris Wheel Press Ambrosia Indulgence. This is like a nice brown, like a chestnut brown. And it's kind of fun to add brown into your painting, into your piece, just to add a little bit of like depth, a little bit of shadow, and some accent color. And this one has a shimmer in it, which is great because if you layer this shimmer inks throughout your painting, once everything dries, you'll start to see shimmer everywhere, right? Because shimmer will get on everything. So if you add it in, when you're done, if you take a step back and you kind of look at your piece, you'll start to see the shimmer come throughout, which is really nice. It's one of the reasons why I love painting with shimmer inks, more so than I like to ink up my fountain pens with shimmer inks, if I'm being honest, because I find when you're painting with it, the properties come out a lot more, and I find it really just like a really nice touch to have some shimmer in your piece. So I think once you kind of have some inks on your paper, like for me, I'm kind of seeing that there's a lot more, because I had 2 teal shades, there's a lot more teal here. And I really, really like this magenta and purple. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit more and kind of make it look a little bit more consistent and lean more towards a purpley pink piece, because I really enjoy these 2 colors together. Especially because we have ink left. So I kind of like to use up the ink that I have in the palette, but don't force yourself to do that, because I'd rather have less on the paper but be happy with it than add more just to use it up and kind of be like, it's a lot. I think intuitively you'll kind of know when to stop, which is another question and another thing people sort of grapple with is like, when is it too much? And the answer for me is, if you're doing abstract work, it really is up to you. So for me, it's like, it's never enough until you sort of intuitively know, like, I'm going to stop now. Like, I've had fun. I like the colors and how I've played around with blending and mixing them. I like how the colors are sort of sitting. And you can sort of stop there. But if you're kind of looking at it and you're like me, I really enjoy this purple and this pink. And I want to make sure I kind of get enough of them. And you can keep blending, or you can just sort of add them on their own. Okay, so I think that for me is enough. Especially because we're running out of paper room on the paper. We're reading your thoughts, Lily Forest. Are those the questions that you've been asking, or like things you're kind of wondering too? Yeah. Fountain pen use. You just mix 30 mils of a color for a friend because it's his favorite, and I compared the original to what I mixed with the recipe and it's identical. Oh, that's actually kind of cool that you were able to get the shade that your friend actually likes. Very cool. Oh, thanks, GHB. So what I'm going to actually do now is add a little bit of foliage. So I'm going to add some leaves. And usually I do this with a green, like I mentioned, and Dustin suggested using Teranishi green, or gentle green, which is this. And I think that's a great idea. So what I usually do is I pick out a brush that has a lot of bristles, like this one. And so it's a really round brush. And I tend to use this for leaves because, as you can see, I use this brush to the advantage. So the angles that it gives me, I just kind of put down. Oh, you might not see it in that angle. I'll show you like this. So put some ink on it, and then basically put the tip down on the paper, push the whole, sort of push down gently on the whole, on all the bristles, and then move up or down depending on what direction you're going. And as you move, just sort of gently lift up your paintbrush, and that will give you that general leaf shape. And once you do that, you can play around with the angle of your paintbrush, and that can give you different angles of leaves. It doesn't have to look perfect. Definitely don't focus on that. And I usually do it on the outs, sort of around all the flowers, because I love that look of sort of leaves coming out from your bouquet, or, you know, where your flowers sort of sit. And as I've sort of done this over time, I play around with a little bit of, you know, a little bit of flair. So when you sort of lift it up, don't be afraid of these sort of the edges being like imperfect edges, right? Like it's totally fine, especially because we're going to draw on top. So just to give yourself a little bit of room to play. So, and yeah, just kind of play around with how much space you have on the paper. We've really made the most of this sheet here. The cool thing is, Beautifully summer. Hi, Tuli. Good time zone. The cool thing is about oh, sorry, I was gonna say I lost my train of thought, but the cool thing about this ink is you can see when you put it down, it's this like teal, like it comes across as a dark teal, but when it dries, it's this really beautiful green. So when I first started using this gentle green, I was like, oh, I thought it was green, but it looks like it's teal, right? When you first write with it or draw with it or paint with it. But when it dries, it has this really, really nice green. It dries as a really nice green with really nice shading to it. So that's why it's one of my favorite greens. It dries lighter. Yeah, Talonate. It's like, it surprised me the first time I used it. I was like, and I still kind of have to remind myself, because usually when we're writing or we're drawing or, you know, playing with ink, usually what we put down, we're like, okay, well, this is kind of what it's going to look like, right? But as it dries, it's just this really lovely shade of green with a little bit of brown edging to it, which is beautiful. Yeah. Well, you just followed the recipe fountain pen use. That's cool. That's awesome that you're mixing inks and making shades out of them. That's so fun. So I'm good with this because I ran out of space. But also because I think we use these inks and just played around with them a little bit. So you see some of these inks are drying after we blended them, and you can see how they've sort of mixed together. And you can also see how, you know, sometimes inks mix, and for whatever reason they, you know, they look a little bit different or muted, or, you know, you may not be happy with the mixing, and that's okay. I think that's all part of the fun. And the cool thing is, once this dries, like this could be how you play with inks, right? You just kind of have fun with it, paint with it, and then you move on. Or you can continue and draw on top. And that's what I like to do, because for me, while this sort of suggests flowers and it suggests a floral bouquet, it doesn't look exactly like a floral bouquet. And it could just be, you know, this could be the abstract piece, which is totally fine. But how I sort of developed the style of intuitive painting, but also line drawing, is I looked at this kind of piece and I thought, you know what, these look like leaves and these look like flowers. I personally like to sketch flowers and floral bouquets. And so this is kind of my way of practicing sketching flowers, but in a very, fast, intuitive, in a line drawing kind of way. Bailey, you made it! How dare you have a doctor's appointment? I'm just kidding. I'm so glad you made it though. Happy Friday. Welcome in. You know, I love when you can join a stream, regardless of what stream you're in. But I feel like I always like miss something when I can't say hi to Bailey. So the last thing is Rob chose 69, which is Ferris wheel press, stroke of midnight, and then he bounced. So I totally forgot, but. I didn't actually add this to the palette because I'm just gonna dip a clean paintbrush in here. And this is some shimmer, so I just have to make sure it's somewhat incorporated. And I'm going to add this on top just to add a little bit of shimmer. But because it's a dark color, I tend not to paint with like really dark colors unless I am going to just add a little bit of accent or like shadow or something like that. Just because it's really hard to draw on top of a dark color and see the details of what you're drawing, right? It's like trying to draw with black on top of black. you're not really going to make out those details. And so I personally like to layer dark on top just to sort of anchor the painting a little bit and give it contrast. And if it's not obvious by now, I love layering colors. I love experimenting with different shades. And I love contrast. Because for me, that's really interesting, is when I see colors blending a little bit together, and I see a little bit of contrast between light and dark, shimmer, sheen. I mean, we're into fountain pen inks, then I guess we're into that, right? Like we're into different contrasting inks and different properties of inks. Oh, you were told to try Stroke of Midnight. Yes. It is a really nice dark color. So depending on if you are into dark inks, it's a dark, like I'd say like blue black with blue shimmer, well, really dark shimmer. So it is a dark ink. You love a little bit of sheen and shimmer, Marilyn? Yeah, I do too. Do you let the bottom one dry first? I usually do if I'm gonna add a dark ink on top. Unless I want to blend a little bit of the dark. So like some of this was kind of like adding it while the first layer was wet, just lets some of the darkness be incorporated. But usually if it's going to be really dark, I like to wait until it's somewhat dry and then add a little bit of dark on top. So it kind of sits on top a little bit. Yeah. My dogs are sitting next to me and growling for some reason. What is happening, Fountain Pen News? Who are they growling at? I love Wearing Ghoul Hades, which I told was very similar. Oh, okay. I don't have Wearing Ghoul Hades, but I think I have seen a... Let me see if I can look it up. Mountain of Ink usually has all the shades. Let's see. I can't see it here. Also ink swatch. Brand. I can't seem to see it here. Oh, I see it. Yeah. Ooh. And then let me pull up Ferris Wheel Press. Stroke of Midnight. So, yeah. Oh, nice. So let me see. So that's Hades. And then, oh, they're on their final batch. Stroke of Midnight. It actually is pretty similar. And it's that dark, you know, black, blue, dark black with like blue shimmer. Yeah. It's nice. Add it to your list of inks. Yeah. And once you sort of have like a shade that you want, it is like, for most times, obviously, like sometimes there's like that one shade, but other times you can find similar shades and kind of go with what's available to you and stuff, what you can get your hands on at some point. Are you into shimmer inks, Bailey? So I'm waiting for this to dry so I can draw on top of it. And it's because I added Stroke of Midnight that's taking a little bit longer. But for the most part, some of these inks dry pretty fast. Yeah, luckily I did find a close one. Yeah, that's good. Let's move some of this. Usually when I have ink left in my palette, I will do more painting on like a different paper. And that's how you can kind of test out different papers and see what you like to paint on or play with. And that's why I have that TRP notebook too, is I can play around with that while I kind of wait for this to dry, or, you know, vice versa and stuff. So if you have different notebooks and different papers that you want to experiment with, I encourage you to do that, especially if you kind of have ink hanging out. And if you have time, obviously. If you have time to play with it. Oh, Lily Forest, that's okay. That's awesome that you were here. You'll watch the rest of the video. Yeah, I'll have the replay up on YouTube as well as Twitch. So, yay. Have a good evening. Have a good weekend. Hopefully I'll catch you on a different stream. Bye, Lily. Thanks for joining. And keep painting. Keep playing with inks. And other stationery too. All right, so this, I'm always looking around for blotter paper, and that's kind of funny because I have blotter paper everywhere. It's just like when I'm looking for it that I can't find it. But, oh, here we go. Okay, so always have blotter paper lying around because it's a great way of just like blotting up some ink if you put down a lot of it, or if you kind of want it to dry a little bit faster. So that's a great way of sort of getting your painting to dry, is blotting some of it. So I think I'm going to do a little bit, and it's mostly the last ink I put down, which is fine. And I just gently put the blotter paper on top and pull up a little bit of that ink, which may pull up a little bit of the shimmer, but that's okay. I still see a lot of it here. So there we go. And yeah, you can see in the light that shimmer throughout. Especially because we used 1, 2, 3 shimmer inks. So distributing it throughout your painting is like a great way of sort of incorporating shimmers where like you're using standard inks. So with standard inks, you know, you're kind of relying on shading or sheen maybe to play a role in what it looks like. But if you're also using some shimmer inks by just layering it on top or around your other colors, you'll get some of that shimmer kind of peeking throughout your piece, and it just gives it a little bit more a little bit more fun, a little bit more sparkle. So to draw on top, I'm using a kakimori nib. This one is the stainless steel, and it's kind of my go-to because if you do swatching or any kind of, other ink play with it, then this is a great way of, like I said before, just practicing your different writing angles or drawing angles with it. And that will, after some time of doing that, you'll be able to figure out just naturally what angle sort of works for putting down the ink that you want to get the line that you want. So the more you use something, the easier it becomes, and the more comfortable and familiar you'll start to feel with it, right? So I'm going to use the kakimori nib. This is the mini contoured nib holder from Rich at River City Pen Company. And it's handy and it's portable. So if you have a mini nib holder, I still find it comfortable to hold, depending on, if you like sort of slim and small things. But if you're more comfortable holding like a longer holder than something like this, or we also talked about the Tachikawa, one of these holders might be more comfortable. But this feels pretty comfortable for me, so I'm good with it. And so when I draw on top, like I said before, I like using pigment ink on top of regular ink, standard inks, because it doesn't reactivate the ink. It doesn't really start to blend with it again, but it does kind of just sit on top. And I kind of get those dark lines that I really like seeing on these sort of pieces. And then you can kind of start to see some of the details as we draw. So yeah, I like the Tachikawa because it came with a cap. Yeah, I know, same. I like that too. It just protects your nib, right? And like I said, I got this because I was using a calligraphy nib. And so like you do want to protect your calligraphy nibs. Kind of like a fountain pen nib. So I do like that cap. And I think there are other nib holders that come with caps. But these ones where they're kind of artisan made, or, they're made by a maker, they're kind of, you're sort of focusing on the actual holder itself. But your cat keeps stealing your caps, Bailey. Well, they do need to play with something, right? So the cap makes total sense. Swat the cap around. Especially if you're traveling with them. There's nothing scarier. Yeah, I know. And getting stabbed or stabbing something with it. Oh, and getting it stuck in something. Oh, man. Yeah. Or if you're traveling with it and, trying to go through security with something that's exposed like that. So what I like to do when I'm drawing is, again, I start from a corner and I work my way down just so I don't smear things. But also in my mind, it's sort of like it makes sense to kind of start from somewhere and then work my way down. Whereas when I'm painting, if you notice, I kind of work my way around. So I start somewhere in the middle here and I sort of go in like a circular motion or just, in whatever sort of pattern. And I just keep adding and adding until I feel like either I ran out of space, like I did with this, or when I kind of feel like I've put down enough color and I'm ready to sort of move on to drawing. And as you can kind of see, if you angle this nib, you can get more ink down on the paper. And I like using this technique of, having a low drawing angle in order to get some more details in, for example, like the center of a flower, or if you're kind of adding a shadow to something too, you could do that. And again, like I said, I just love contrast between lines. And it's kind of the fun thing about doing line drawings is that you're not super focused on what you're drawing. Like, you're not focused on the detail of what you're actually creating. You're more focused on just going with the flow and doing it fast enough that you're not spending time overthinking things. And you're not spending time, too much time on like the actual details of what you're drawing. And so having fun with angling your nib, putting down more ink, every time you sort of dip into an ink, you get more ink coming out. You put down a lot more of it. And then as you keep drawing, like this nib actually holds a lot of ink. As you keep drawing, the lines will get a little bit finer. You can add a little bit more detail if you want a little bit more flair. That's a great way to get a friend made, is stabbing them. Oh, yeah, I know. Like, sorry, but do you like stationery? Because then we can be friends. I'm actually kind of excited for Diamine's permanent inks because they have so many color options. Yeah, I know. I am a fan of permanent inks because I love the risk, but also just like for painting or for drawing, I love permanent inks. And if you're into like archival inks and journaling with permanent inks, it's nice to have more options, I think. So yeah, I'm glad that they're doing that. Or offering them. You can use these dark fountain pen inks that we put down on the paper as a little bit of a guide for where the center of the flower is. And so just putting a little bit more pigment ink on top draws attention to that. I kind of like that. The other thing you can do is if you have these large areas of ink, you can draw a petal sort of around it, but you can also sort of draw lines to show directionality of petals sort of creeping up and the direction that those petals take. So I just sent 2 letters off and realized once I already signed and sealed that I didn't use waterproof ink, so hopefully the mail person doesn't carry it out in the rain to the person. Yeah. Or add like like tape on top or something to protect it. Yeah. I'm sure it'll be fine. Speaking of risky, the last time I put Scabiosa into a cartridge, the cartridge developed a leak. Oh no. Yeah, the iron gall ink that did it, but it does make me a little paranoid. Yeah, I would be I would be a little bit paranoid, but yeah, cartridges, I mean, too, like after the first time, like I like to reuse cartridges. I fill up my Skogsy. Let me see if I can show you. So I have this Skogsy baby Saguaro that I fill up with platinum chokuro. But what I do is I basically just reuse an ink cartridge and I just syringe drop the chokuro in there. And this is what this pen is for. It's always going to have this ink. But like you said, plain water, those cartridges could get a leak, especially if you keep, like me, reusing the cartridge after a while. Like, I don't know how long, but or how many uses it sort of takes, right? But it does break down in terms of being able to hold your inks and not have leaks. So definitely a risk. I have so much ink on my desk. Yeah. Do you have as many ink vials though, Bailey? You should start putting them into ink vials and play with them. Use up your inks. Miss Marilyn, you always use a Sharpie or Micron pen or Tombow pens to write the address. Yeah. Yeah, I personally like the Tombow Mono Twin. This is permanent. And I like it because it has dual tip. You can see that. So there's like a super extra fine tip on one side and then like relatively medium to broad line on the other side. I'm not just saying that because I love Tombow products and I'm part of their creator crew, so they send me all their products, but that is one of the best permanent markers that have like fine lines to them, like a fine liner, that I use for, yeah, if I need to use like a permanent ink for anything. Labeling, I have kids, so I have to like label all their stuff. So that's kind of a great way of like labeling things too. If you need to use a permanent marker, permanent ink. How's the Chokuro in terms of dry time? What nib do you use with it? Yeah, it's so the nib that I use with it is a double broad sig from Franklin Christoph. So it's a BB sig, and it's just the Raven nib, and so you can kind of see that like really stubby line. The dry time is actually not that bad. I would say it's similar to like a pigment ink. So it sort of sits on top, but it dries actually pretty relatively quick. But because I use a double broad nib, it takes longer to dry because I'm using a double broad nib. So it's kind of a combination of the ink and the nib. So the reason why I love Chokuro is because it's like very, very dark. It's very similar to, I wouldn't say very similar, sorry. I would say it's darker than like a pigment black, like a Kakamori black. And it is darker than Carbon Black from Platinum. So I don't know why they had to like one up themselves to have an even darker black color. But the interesting thing about, let me just find, so the interesting thing about the Chokuro ink is that it's blacker than a Tombow Fudenosuke, like their brush pen, which is like super cool. So when Chokuro dries, like when the ink dries, it actually will look darker than the Tombow black brush pen. So for me, that's really cool. Like if you want a black ink, that's the one. Like a really dark black ink. Fountain pen use, you have a permanently inked Twisby with octopus fluids. Yeah, write and draw for addresses. Oh yes, that's a great idea, fountain pen use, to have like a specific fountain pen just for like addressing and writing and things like that. Something that you would need a permanent ink or like a, you know, waterproof ink or something like that. Omaha, hi, you're still here. I thought you had left, and I was like, I'm using the Kakamori nib. Is it just me, or does FC not get much love? I don't know. Is that true? I feel like maybe I think with more independent makers going to pen shows, maybe that's why there's sort of like an attention now put on smaller fountain pen makers. And because I do remember maybe a couple of years ago at the SF Pen Show, I wanted to check out the FC table for pens, and I remember people telling me like go first thing, because the like people swarm to their table and just like, you know, get the nice pens, or like the pens that are sort of the popular materials, and you're kind of left with, you know, like a pretty reasonable amount to choose from, but maybe not the one that you want. And I do remember that they were really, really busy, but it could be that like over time, Fountain Pen News gives FC plenty of love. I feel like over time too, with being able to purchase from their site online, like I've done that a couple of times where I just kind of like I know what I want, I know the material or something, and then I go on their site and I just kind of figure out like what model I like. And I've purchased from their site before, and then you can add nibs, right, to your purchase. And that's how I got the double broad Raven. Actually, I might have gotten that at the pen show, but I did get a few nibs that way, is by ordering it online. But I love FC. I love their pens. I love the different models that they have. Are, you know, like you could find the one that sits right for you depending on how you sort of grip your pens and stuff. And then you can kind of figure out what model works. And they have so many different options in terms of materials and finishes and stuff. You bought 2 pens from them in Philly, Fountain Pen News? Oh, Miss Marilyn, you like FC broad nibs? Yes. Yes, all of their nibs are really nice, like useful and smooth and just great. Oh, I'm just looking back at the other comments about carbon black is too shiny. Yeah, GHP, I kind of find that too. I'm not a huge fan of carbon black. I think Bailey, you said this. I want to like it more. Oh, GHP, you want to like carbon black way more than you do. Yeah, I kind of agree with you on that. I do like it. I think it's like a solid black, right? But I don't know. Chokuru I got on Fountain Pen Day, I think, from Atlas at a discount. So it is expensive otherwise if you're paying full price. But if you can get it on sale or like at a discount or for a special event or something, definitely do that. Or use an affiliate code on top of other deals if you can. I have a code for Atlas, but you know, you can find codes for different places that maybe carry some of these inks that are a little bit more expensive. Bailey, you need to go to Papa J's. Yes, and please share photos because I love Luke's pens. And I wish he would come to more pen shows, especially the ones that I go to. If he can come to SF, that would be amazing. And you only make small batches, yeah. The SIG in EF and F are your favorites, Omaha? Yeah, I have a SIG in broad and double broad because I tend to write with broader nibs. But both of those SIGs are so good. They're some of my favorite nibs. The Yovo 14K are a little springier. Yeah, I haven't tried it. You get to see his killer table display in person. I know. I'm so jealous. I'm going to have FOMO over the Chicago Pen Show for sure. Especially because a lot of people are going. And I kind of wish I could get to East Coast pen shows more. Or that I could just like get to them easily. But me being on the West Coast, I'm kind of like it's easier for me to go to SF or LA or one of those ones. Fountain pen use, you have a code for Venice and Atlas. Yeah, that's cool. I have one for Atlas. I think, yeah, I've seen codes for like Drom Ghouls and things like that too. So if you are tempted to buy inks that you may not want to pay full price for because they are quite expensive and we love our inks. So of course we need more than just, you know, one or two. Then using a code and supporting creative people, it's a great way of doing it. I love that we have that available to us. Yeah, it's not cheap on Amazon. Oh, Luke is bringing nib holders. I wonder if you can preview them and maybe, you know, prepay or pre-order if you really wanted one though. I think part of it for me is like being able to see something in person, and then seeing if it speaks to me. And then I kind of, you know, decide then if it's something I have to have or if I can kind of check it out later. I'd love to get a code for Drom Ghouls. Yeah. Anytime it's like, you know, you have a code or there's a sale or a discount or something. That's always dangerous. Oh, you got a Kaweco Piston Sport. That's awesome, Miss Marilyn. I hope you enjoy. I don't have one, but they do look awesome. Yes, you need to get there first. Prioritize. So definitely, Bailey, if you know you're eyeing, you could ask him. And if you're eyeing, you know, a certain color or a certain material or something, definitely prioritize and get there when things open and run. Like me running to the plotter table at the California Pen Show. Literally just dashed. Yeah, you could order it and then return it if it's not actually what it is. You could always return it. Oh, you got a Homo sapiens. I don't have one, but yeah, they're nice. You only have one double broad nib, Miss Marilyn. Double broad is where it's at. Oh, they're so fun. Yeah, that will be you. Bailey, there's gonna be like stories that come out about this one person who's just like knocking people down as they're running across the floor to get to Papa J. And check out, oh, they got a nib holder. Great. You're only about, oh, you're close to drum goals, but the traffic. Yeah. Oh, Ultra Flex. Flex nibs are fun. They are fun. You're short, they might not even see you. Yeah, short people problems, right? I have that same problem. But that means that you could like duck around people. Duck under things too. Like just duck under tables. Just slide your way down there. Yeah, Papa J sharing a table with White Bear Pens. Double whammy. I know. So I met Michaela at White Bear Pens at the California Pen Show, and she is such a nice person. She's so nice, and funnily enough, recognized me and was like, "Oh, I love your art. I love your, florals and stuff." And I was like, I fangirled. I legit was just like, whoa, because I love her pens. They're like, I don't have one because it's on my wish list, but I love the like sparkly, like fun. They're just like great. They're great pens. So I love that they're sharing a table because now Bailey, you can look at both White Bear Pens and Papa J. It's dangerous though. I know. It's dangerous. Oh, GHP, you're gonna go down when Kirk Spears is there. Oh, yay, that's awesome. I did see that Kirk is gonna be there grinding nibs, so um are you gonna I assume you're gonna get a nib ground or yeah, I love Kirk. Kirk is awesome. Kirk is a great nib specialist and just a really nice person. Kirk is the best. Yep. Yeah, Oh, she's one of your pen besties. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I fell in love. I was like, oh, I love the pens, and I had a hard time deciding on one, and I think that's why I didn't end up buying a pen from White Bear, is because I was just like, I want them all. And I had that same problem at Zodiac Pens because I met Bart. Even though I'd heard of Zodiac Pens, I met Bart in person in LA, and I was like, I love all your pens. Like I had such a hard time choosing one that I just had to like take a step back, and I was like, I'll be back. I'll come back when I know what I want. But on my wish list for sure, Zodiac Pens and White Bear Pens and Papa J if ever I can get something. Because I love the different styles that each of them have, but they all speak to like my aesthetics in some way, right? Like we all kind of relate to that. You're excited to see them and see their work in person. Yeah, that's the one thing about going to pen shows or events where you can see and like just part of it for me is not only do you get to see and hold the pens and kind of like see if you connect to the different style and whether it would be comfortable to hold. But the other part for me is getting to know the makers and like understanding the passion that they put into what they create. And the different stories of how they come up with like the styles and stuff like that. Like talking to Zach from Skogsy Pens, like how he sort of came up with the different types of pens that he has. And hearing him talk about like the low volume eyedropper and like the process that he goes through to make each of those pens. And yeah, it's just really, really fun. Like I think it's part of that experience of getting to know makers and deciding on pens to buy. It's like it's one thing to own a piece that they've created, but it's another to understand the story that's behind it and like what goes into it, right? What their thought process is and stuff. Like nerding out on pens. You might sell your Pink Pony Club pen. That's a really, really nice pen, fountain pen use. Really decide if you do want to sell it because I'm sure a lot of people are interested. Oh, it's a good thing your husband isn't coming with you, Bailey. Yeah, I don't know if he wants to see that side of you of like running and elbowing your way to stationery tables. I feel like, or maybe he understands. GHP, you're most likely getting an architect or reverse architect with needlepoint. Oh yes, I feel like you've mentioned this before in terms of just like a grind that you're looking to get. And you're gonna get it on your Nouveau Bleu. One of my favorite pens ever is the Nouveau Bleu ST. I have a Techo nib on it, but I do have a reverse architect on my Leonardo that I had Gina grind in LA, and I love it. So for me, it's like now all about reverse grinds because I have a lot of custom grinds, and I feel like I kind of have the ones that I feel comfortable using and appreciate. And now I'm going to do the reverse. I'm going to do reverse grinds. Fountain Pen News has like 10 pens with grinds from Kirk. Oh, he's your local guy. I think you've mentioned this before, actually, Wendy. I know this. Yeah. You have a Scythe with reverse needlepoint on 2 Twisbys. Oh, cool. Reverse Architect on your back mini. Okay. So these are grinds that you appreciate and that you like. That's good. Yeah, you will be hooked, Bailey. Once you get those first couple of grinds, you're gonna be hooked. all of the different all of the possibilities that you can have with pens that you like and nibs that you like, but they can be elevated a little bit more. I feel like custom grinds are a way to elevate your pens and your nibs just a little bit more to have some fun. All of the nibs I have from any professional are awesome. Yeah, I agree, Fountain Pen News. All of the nibs that I have had work done by a nib specialist I have enjoyed. And to your point of like not reaching for certain pens, sometimes I find I don't reach for certain pens or for certain nibs, but then over time I start to, like, as I get comfortable with other grinds and other pens, I then start to feel like, okay, like I think I'm ready, or I think I'm, I kind of want to bring back certain pens and certain grinds. I was really disappointed that I couldn't get down there when Annabelle was there in February. Yeah, GHP, that would have been fun. And I think Annabelle's going to be there in Chicago as well. And in SF too, in August. The Techo stock nib is amazing because it is ground by CY for Esterbrook. And I also ended up getting an engraved Pen Realm nib at one of the pen shows. I got a double broad. And I had CY grind a Techo, but like it's called a Sankaksen, and it's ground on a double broad because the Techo nib that Esterbrook offered is ground on a broad nib. And so the broadest you'll get is broad. Whereas if you get CY or like Kirk has, all the nib specialists have their own version of that kind of grind based on a Naginata. But CY's grind, you can get him to do it on a double broad, which is like, a great sort of starting point because the lower you get to the paper, the broader your stroke will be. And so if you're writing cursive and you really like those thick lines, and if you do handwriting, like printing, and you sort of have a higher writing angle, then you get the contrast in those two different lines. And for me, I really enjoy seeing that. So, yeah, so the Techo nib in the ST Nouveau Bleu is basically my like perfect combination of a nib and pen. I have Kirk, Gina, Richard Binder, JJ Lax, Matthew Chen. Wow, you have all of them basically, Fountain Pen News. You pretty much have all of them. And do you have or I guess because you have Kirk accessible to you, you can get a lot more done by them, or by Kirk. But is there one that you sort of like, if you could get one more grind by this person, is there one that you would choose? You're a big architect grind person? Yeah. GHP, I love architects, and I have two, and I feel like I'm good in terms of, having, one or two architect nibs that I can use. But yeah, I love that sort of like block printing style for, headers and like for different ways of using it and stuff. And I think for some people it sort of makes more sense to use certain grinds like an architect or something, depending on like your style of writing, block printing or handwriting and stuff. But I like, using different nibs to get different styles of writing too. And you'll get Annabelle to do something at the Colorado Pen Show. Yeah, definitely. I got a smooth cursive italic on a broad nib that I got on a Skogsy. So I bought a Skogsy pen at the SF Pen Show, and then I had an appointment with Annabelle, and I was like, might as well grind this broad nib to something. So it's kind of like the perfect combination of experience of being at the SF Pen Show. So I bought a pen and then got the nib ground by a specialist there at the show that I really appreciate, because I'll always remember that kind of experience, right? Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. I have a couple that just don't write as well. Yeah. And it's magic, Bailey. Like once, I don't know what, nib specialists do magic to nibs. I don't know how they sort of do that, but them also catering to your specific writing style, which like if you're buying a stock nib, it's going to write the way that the nib should write. But when you get a custom ground, it's made for your writing style, no one else's, right? So depending on whether or not you hold it a different way, you hold your pens a different way, you'll always find that kind of pen will write perfectly for you because it's based on how you write. So definitely take your time when you are getting custom grinds to make sure that you're comfortable with it, because it's not made for anyone else. Oh, Miss Marilyn, I wish they did reverse naginata too. That would be awesome. Yeah. Kirk's katana looks really interesting. Yes, I have that on my list of possible grinds to get Kirk to do. I have a Waverly from Kirk and a Scythe as well. Well, Fountain Pen News probably has all of the grinds, but yeah, those are like, there are some great grinds that you can get done too. Your best flex nibs are still by Les from Stilo Sweet. Oh, okay, cool. Flex nibs are for sure, like it does, you can get different types of flex nibs and stuff, so they are still fun though. You got yours from fpnibs.com? Yeah. Oh, you have two Kirk Spear flex nibs. Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, I didn't think that he did flex. But your favorite is Imperial? That's awesome. So, speaking of, well, I actually thought of this when we were talking about FC, Franklin Christoph, and then we started talking about nib grinds, but I have to show you a nib that I got last year from FC, because I ordered a pen from them and I ended up adding, like getting the pen, and then I got a medium cursive italic. But if you get it from Franklin Christoph, it's ground by Nagahara. And so it's like a sharper cursive italic. Like it's not, like if you get a custom ground from a nib specialist, you could get it somewhat smooth so that it's a little bit gentler when you're transitioning between your different strokes. But this one I got because I was very curious about it. I read the description on the site and it sort of said, you know, it's a little bit more traditional. But I do love calligraphy nibs. And when I practiced calligraphy, I did love the like sort of feedback, scratchy sort of feel to it. And when I initially got this, I was like very intimidated by it because it does depend on what angle you hold it at. So you sort of get that like scratchy sound. And so, you know, depending on how you sort of hold it, it will either sort of give you that feedback of like, ooh, this is not, you're not holding it correctly, or sort of angle it a little bit differently. But once I started playing with it, so initially when I got it, I kind of used it and then I put it away because I was like, I don't know if I'm using this correctly. I don't know if it feels right. I'm just not gonna, you know, bother with it too much. And then after a month or two, I took it back out and I was like, you know what? I actually want to play with this. And so after a little bit of practice, this is like a nib that I love. So yeah, I mean, that's just to say like there are different grinds that will sort of work for you. And again, you can get them customized to whether you like something smoother or sharper, if you like feedback or not. But it's also to say that sometimes, you know, if we get a nib and we're kind of not feeling it in the moment, or it feels like it's too much, too extra, you can always come back to it after a while of playing with other nib types and other grinds. When we feel a little bit more comfortable and we feel more confident in using certain nibs, you can always come back to it. Oh, bye GHB. Thanks for being here. Happy Friday and have a great weekend. And hope to see you in a future stream, of course. I think I'm going basic for now, Imperial and Needlepoint, if Kirk has time to do both. Yeah. Annabelle, I'm thinking an Architect or Mini Stub. Ah, Mini Stub. Nice. I'd love to get on Matt's list and do a grind with him. Yeah. Those are all really good options. I feel like those would be really good grinds. And Kirk's Needlepoint is like amazing. So he is fast. Yeah, fountain pen use. Yeah. One of your favorite flex pens is on your Waterman 12, Miss Marilyn. And it's called a Boinga Boinga. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, it's kind of funny, isn't it? It's just kind of fun to say. Yeah, it is a very stiff. That's a good way of saying it. Stiff. I kind of say it as like sharp, but oh yeah, Bailey. It's a medium cursive italic from Franklin Christoph. And it's Ground for Them by Nagahara, who is really like, he's well known for his grinds. And yeah, stiff is kind of the way to say it too. And I kind of think of it as like sharp, but not in a bad way, right? In a traditional italic way. Hi, Ethrak. Hi. You missed most of the stream. It's all good. It's all good. I'm glad you're here though. Omniflex, I know. Oh, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of them, but yeah. Yovo steel nibs are so stiff. Yeah. You definitely need to tune them. The Magna Carta Mag 6, the Ultra Flex nibs. Yeah. Ultra Flex. You need some movement with your nibs, is what you're saying. Yeah, Bailey, you were saying that you want to get on Matt's list. My favorite, I've only had one nib ground by Matthew Chen, and it's the Beak Point. And I did a YouTube video on it, and it was just kind of funny because then people sort of reached out and were like, yeah, let me see if I remember what pen it's in. Actually, you know what? I think I have it in a vial of how I store my custom nibs in these little vials, and they're numbered and inventoried, of course. But I was just going to show you the Beak Point that I got from Matthew Chen, because it's like, it's amazing. Is it this one? Yeah. I had people message me after and were like, I was going to tell you that your nib was broken. Someone bent it. And it is literally a bent nib, because so that's why it's called a Beak Point, right? It points downwards. And so when you're writing like this, which already looks kind of odd because you're like used to seeing the tip of your nib, right? When you're writing. But when you're writing like this, you get whatever point you sort of started off with, like what the stock nib is. And this is an extra fine. And so you're like writing like this, you'll get the extra fine point. But then the fun part is when you do the reverse, you get this like super broad fude style line. And so it's great for like getting your like really thick letters and using up your inks. But that is a Matthew Chen Beak Point special. And it's super fun. I am a fan of fun nibs as well as nibs that, you know, are practical. Although that one is kind of practical if you're using it for different styles of writing. You're torn between the Kodachi or the Uranagi from him. The Kodachi sounds fun too. Oh, Ethrak, you store your extra nibs in a Galen leather pen pouch too. Oh, these pouches are really great, right? Like if you get anything from Galen Leather, they include like, oh, you know, a postcard, a story of their, like how they sort of began, and other things, tea, you know, some other fun stuff. And I always feel like I need to, you know, they're great pouches. So it's a good way of using them for sure. They have minimal flex but can be okay when tuned. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes tuning a pen will help. Have you tried a Sailor Zoom nib? You might like it. Oh, okay. I haven't. And maybe I will. So funny story. When I was at the California Pen Show in LA, the Sailor Guild or Sailor North America table, they had Sailor pens on sale, like certain ones. And so I ended up going a little bit later because I didn't find out about it until someone else mentioned it to me. And they were like, yeah, check out some of their Pro Gears. And so I ended up getting a Pro Gear, and by the time I got it, they only had a music nib. And so I was like, okay, because I like stubby sort of like, you know, broader nibs. And I was like, okay, cool. So I got it. And then afterwards, I kind of played with it. And I was like, I don't know. Maybe it's the way I'm holding it. I don't know if it really speaks to me. Yeah, so I don't know if I'm going to I'm going to get something done to it. Or if it's one of those where I just kind of put it away and then I bring it back later, but it's just, maybe I will like a zoom nib better. Decide when you get there, try them out at his table. Yeah, fountain pen use, that's great advice. Like if you're not too sure, or if you're trying to consider, like if you're trying to decide between a couple of different grinds, it's always good to like go there and then test them out at their table, try their tester pens, and then figure out like what works for you and stuff, right? Oh, Indy, hi. You just got home. What did you miss? Oh, you know what? Today we painted this, and it was another one of those random sort of pick a few ink vials, and we kind of explored the different ink properties and got some shimmers in there, and then drew on top with the trusty Kakamori nib. And now we're just kind of chatting about nibs, custom grinds, pen shows, and yeah, anything in between. Do you have a nib that you enjoy? Do you have a stock nib size, or do you have a custom grind that you really like? Have you tried anything that's like out there that you may or may not have liked? Yeah, that's the plan, Bailey. It's a good one. Definitely try them out first if you're kind of waffling between the two. I like the one Gourmet Pens had, those little tins. Yeah, those are cute. They're good. Asking them what they would do with my particular nib is your new method of getting a ground. That's a great method. I like that. Asking them like what would be kind of fun to do with a certain nib, or what they feel like grinding. Every time I order from Galen, I feel like I'm receiving a gift box. I feel like that too, Ethrak. I love when shops include like extras where you're kind of like, I'm not expecting that, but it's always kind of nice, right? It's that extra touch. Thanks, Indy. I'm glad you like it. Didn't you know how it sort of started was with this core group, and then I just added more teals and then added a little bit more purples on the outside, and then used up as much of the paper as I could. So it's definitely a surprise, but I like it too. Zoom nib, the steeper the angle, the thinner the line. Oh, okay. Yeah, you know what? Ethrak, you're kind of like selling me on a zoom nib just like to even just try it out, because I love the variation of line. Whatever side it's sort of, you know, however you sort of get it. I like experimenting with lines that way too. You're getting a commission pen on Monday. Is it Fountain Pen News? Is that the Zodiac one? You've been waiting for it since like July or August. Yeah, I'm excited for the show and tell too when you get it. I started with EF nibs and are moving more to mediums. Hate the flexes so far. Yeah. That's how I actually started, is with extra fine nibs, because my writing used to be very small and very compact. And so I still enjoy like really fine liners or gel pens. And like when I use gel pens, you know, or fine liners, I still kind of tend to use the more finer lines, especially for writing. But I found that I used extra fine to fine nibs in fountain pens for years before I really went down the rabbit hole of like trying different nib sizes and then trying different types of inks, because I think with my extra fines and fines, I was using just standard inks. But once I got into, ones that had like shimmer, not so much, like I don't really like using shimmer inks and fountain pens too much, but I do like experimenting with them. And I do like inks where they kind of have like, different shading to them. And I find that I can see that obviously, a lot more of it is prominent if you're using broader nibs. And I think I started drifting towards that aspect of writing is after like just enjoying putting down a thick line. And then after looking back and seeing like all the different ink properties and stuff. And I think that's where my evolution went, is starting from the very thin lines to writing a little bit bigger with broader nibs, to see a little bit more of the ink. But again, like I love painting with inks as well. So I feel like I get a lot of that enjoyment of seeing the different properties by just painting with them too. Mediums are my steadfast pen size. Fine, extra fine for small writing needs. Broad, double broad when I'm feeling extra saucy. Extra saucy, Bailey. That's kind of why when I use my architect nibs and I'm writing in like block letters, just like yelling at things in my journal. And I use like, you can write bigger. Yeah, when you're feeling extra saucy for sure. Custom resin by Turn Pen by Zodiac. Oh, that sounds really awesome, fountain pen use. I can't wait to see what it looks like and how excited you are about it. Yeah, you love your 0.28. Yeah, fine liner. Yeah, for sure. My I used to have like I loved the fine liners that were like the 0.25 or 0.38s. And they were kind of like my go-to gel pen size too. And like, I think more maybe in the last few years, I've kind of started appreciating like the 0.5s, the 0.7s. But yeah, when I'm kind of like, I just want to write down something in a small space, I kind of go for the thinner lines. Lots of flex nibs to try. Ultra flex nibs too. Oh, we have a raid. Thank you so much for the raid. Welcome in, raiders. And oh, thanks so much for raiding. I'm going to... How was your stream? And what were you up to today? Hello, hello, welcome in. I don't know if it's gonna... Let's try that. Yeah, there we go. Shout out. Shout out. Hello, welcome in. Hi, everyone. You gotta run. Good luck with your art. Oh, thank you. Thanks so much for rating. Appreciate you. Thanks for coming. Yeah, so everyone who joined us, thanks so much for coming. Thanks for joining. I'm Corolla. If you don't know me, I'm from Corolla on socials. So you can find me on Instagram, on YouTube. I also have a Substack blog where I share my love for stationery, and I am a fountain pen enthusiast, so I love using fountain pens and fountain pen inks. So we did some painting today with fountain pen inks. I find that it's a great way of using up inks or paints if you're into that, and really enjoying the process of playing with them. So my style of art is sort of this abstract floral art. And I love sharing my process of just kind of being creative with your tools and not thinking too much about doing something perfect or something that has technique. Just kind of having fun with your creative tools. And yeah, I love sharing that. And I love doing lives where I'm kind of like doing it while chatting, because it's a great way for us to de-stress. It's a good way for us to relax, as you would with any kind of art, really. So, and now we're kind of talking about fountain pens and fountain pen ink, things where like getting custom nib grinds on fountain pens and making fountain pens work for us. Hi, Spicy Miso. Your wallet will determine what you end up getting. Custom 74 is also awesome. Yes, Wendy Sue's Fountain Pen News. Wendy Sue's awesome. And make friends in the process. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Indy, you have 3 new pens coming, 1 today and the other 2 sometime next week. Oh, did you share with us which ones? It was only going to be 2 pens, but then someone posted a glow-in-the-dark TWSBI. Oh, which glow-in-the-dark? Because I have the green glow-in-the-dark and the purple. But glow-in-the-dark is also cool. Like, just in general, any glow-in-the-dark pen. My dream grind is the Waverly nib. I'm a lefty, so it helps a lot. Yeah, I like the Waverly for sure. I had it ground on a fine nib, and it just like, yeah, it helps put down a little bit more ink, but also feels a lot more stable, if that makes sense. You got the purple one. Yes, because purple. Yep, purple TWSBI glow in the dark. One pen you got because it has a dragonfly on it. That's awesome. That makes so much sense for you, Indy. I hope that Kaweco comes out with all the colors with the piston pens. Yeah, is it, what color did you end up getting? And is it just one color? I feel like yes. And of course you had to have it, Indy. And are you into like dragonfly stuff? Like, do you sort of collect dragonfly stuff as well? Or is it kind of like you're particular about the things that you have that have dragonflies on it? Yeah, TWSBI Ecos are great. I know people have issues sometimes with it cracking, like the barrel cracking and things like that. Just, it's I don't think, depends on how you use them too, but I feel like the TWSBIs that I have had, they have lasted me for a while, and I find them reliable, and I've used them with like shimmer inks, and they are like, I do find them very wet and smooth. It's just one color. Oh, it's just black. Okay, gotcha. You forgot the other one. That's okay, Indy. When you get your pens in the mail, you'll have a happy surprise. I'm like, oh yeah, this one. There's a limited yellow color. Oh, okay. That's good to know. They have a brass black coated one, which is super heavy, but I got the plastic one. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if it's brass, then I would expect it to be a little bit heavier and a little bit heavier to hold too. A nickel and a penny, so light. Oh, here comes Spicy Miso with the hot take. I hate Lamy Safari. All-Star as well. No. But I only have 3 Lamy Safaris. 3 Lamy Safaris, and 1 All-Star. But I mean, I don't hate them, but I feel like they're not the pens that I reach for anymore. I kind of started with Lamys, but I feel like I would reach for Twisby more, maybe. Yeah, a little weightier is actually kind of nice, Indy, to have a weighty pen. To have something substantial, I kind of like that too. The triangle grip. Yeah, I know. Where they kind of like, this is where you need to be holding the pen. Yeah. Your Lamy broad. Yeah. Actually, if I was going to use a Lamy again, like if I was going to take it out of my drawer and use it again, I think it would be the broad for sure. It was your first pen and it made you hate the hobby. Oh no. That's definitely a reason not to go back. Don't do Lamys. Unless it works for you. And was it because of the grip or... Yeah, if you have a weird grip, it's great for kids. Yes, Miss Marilyn, right? Like anytime a pen has like a grip to it where they sort of guide, it's meant to be like a guide, right? So for starters or for kids, or people who appreciate, I guess, like if they have that grip already and they appreciate holding on to that. But if you don't, yeah, I can see why it wouldn't be comfortable or even enjoyable. Yeah, the triangle grip is a sticky point for a lot of people. I've heard that before too. It's just a style of, and I guess it is meant for students or for kids or for people who sort of need that guide. But I can see how it can be like irritating for you depending on how your style of writing is. Whether or not you need that. Like it's kind of a necessary thing if you don't really need that. The Twisby Swipe. Oh, interesting. I haven't used that yet. And it's out for delivery now? Well, go wait by the window or by your mailbox. And then come back and tell us what your third pen was. I tried the Pelican M200. That thing is not worth. Yeah, I have one Pelican. It's the M200. Oh, it's the M205. It's nice, but it does put down a broader line, which I personally enjoy. But, you know, I used it a few times and I will do a flex exploration on the Mag 600 soon. Oh, I'm looking forward to that fountain pen use. Right now, I have Robert Oster Rose Gold Antiqua and can go from extra fine to... Whoa! Quadruple broad without railroading. Oh, yes. If you slow down while flexing. Like, take your time so that the ink can actually hit your paper. They just came out with the M800 in transparent gold. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I guess maybe it does depend on when the mag was made, the one that you have. Maybe. I got mine about 2 months ago and you had railroading with many inks. but found a few. Okay. So, yeah, maybe it does depend on the type of ink you're using too. You like pocket pens, so you should like this, but it has a stub nib. Yeah. We're always kind of pushing the boundaries on, or not boundaries, but like our preferences a little bit sometimes, aren't we? Like if you prefer a size of pen, trying a different type of nib, or if you like a certain nib, trying a different type of pen. This will be your first stub. Yeah, I like stubs. And I like stub styles. And yeah, I think I started, so I did start with like the extra fine and fines, and then I went to broads, and then I tried stubs, and then I thought, yeah, I like the sort of line that it puts down. I feel like if you don't like your handwriting too much, or if you're kind of like, oh, my writing looks so messy, I feel like the first recommendation I would probably give is like, try a stub, because a stub is like just like a little bit of flair to make your writing look more like grounded, if that makes sense. Like, without going into the territory of custom grinds, because obviously, you can always get something ground to fit your writing style and stuff. But going stock, stub is definitely interesting. It's an interesting variation. You do not want line variation, Spicy. I'm sure there's a lot of people who agree with you. I am on the other end of that now, just because I've tried and used certain nibs for so long that in like where I'm now in this hobby of using fountain pens, and even like, using nibs, dip nibs and stuff like that, is that I actually tend to appreciate the line variation a little bit more now than I may have done years ago. And so that's why I tend to go with like nibs that can give me a little bit more of a variation depending on how I'm holding it, because I like experimenting with that. The best advice I can tell anyone is try everything at least once. Yeah, that's great advice, Miss Marilyn. And especially if, like, we may not be able to buy all those different things, right? Like, we may not be able to buy all the different types of nibs that are available and things like that. But that's why it's handy if you can go to a stationery store near you that allows you to try different pens, or if you can get to a pen show or any kind of event where there are testers available. And that is my biggest advice of going to a pen show, is like, try as much as you can. Try testers, try different nibs. If people are going to, like, people who go to pen shows to offer, like, bring their own pens and then offer to let you try them out. So definitely, like, take a notebook with you and try as many different pens and different nibs and different tools that you can. And also vendor tables, right, will have testers, especially if they offer those types of nibs in their pens. They'll have the testers that you can try out. Definitely try it out to find something that works for you. I do not own the 742. I have the 843, 823, 823. What's with all the numbers, right? I wrote with an expensive pen at a pen club a few weeks ago, and I didn't see it being worth extra money. Yeah, or that, right? Like, you try out more expensive pens, or ones that, may be more expensive because of the material or whatever the case might be. And it's kind of like, maybe it's not the kind of pen that you would get for the money, like for what it costs, because like not every pen that's expensive is going to be a pen that you'll actually enjoy. And some of the cheaper pens, you might enjoy a little bit more than the expensive pens, right? It's definitely a very subjective thing in that way. Like, or if it's more expensive, you could also be just paying for the brand, the name, the allure of what it is. Bailey coming in with the Jinhao 82s. You have a lot of them. Yeah. Yeah, I have the Pilot 823 with a signature nib. And I have to say, I enjoy it a lot. And not everyone will be, like, the signature is sort of a smooth stub type of grind. And not everyone will enjoy that, right? Like, if you're not into, like, stub nibs or you don't like a thick line. But the pen itself is just, like, really comfortable. And the 823 holds a lot of ink, too, which I don't do a lot of ink variation in that pen. Like, I don't switch out inks too much in that pen. I just stick to a basic gray, like a nice gray, and I just re-ink it with that. So I don't have to worry about cleaning it out and stuff. Yeah, if you lose a Jinhao, you're not too upset about it. Yeah, the cheaper pens, obviously, like, you can test them out, you can play with them, and then not worry, like, you can throw shimmer inks and things like that, and not worry too much about having to, maintain them as much or having to keep track of them. Why not us? Yeah. Yeah, you have an 823 with signature nib and you like it? Yeah. It is really nice. I don't know. I don't know. It's really smooth and very fun to write with, like a very enjoyable writing experience. I have no complaints about it at all. Oh, you swapped in soft medium nib. That's fun too. Yeah. I have different inks and different pens. Yeah, exactly. Indeed. I do too. And I have inks that I like to pair with certain pens because I feel like the pen and the nib do really well with certain inks, right? So I kind of have like these combinations that will work, and I don't really want to mess with them sometimes. Or use them as dip pens if they break. Yeah, that's a good way of using pens too if they're broken. You have shimmer inks in the Jinhaos, even the EF ones. How does the EF Jinhao deal with the shimmers? Is that okay? Does it write well? You like shimmers now? Yeah. Once you kind of try them and um, you have stickers on the pen so you know which ink is in it. Yeah. I keep a currently inked spread, and because I too have to sometimes remind myself, like especially of the pens that I change up every month. Yeah, Fountain Pen Companion is great to track. Oh, you use it to track which inks are in which pens. Oh, I see. I just use it to track my inks. And it's also great. FPC is great if you're doing ink swaps, like sample swatch or sample swaps. And the other person is also an FPC because then you can just see filter by the inks that they have that you don't have. So it's easy to see like what inks they have and choose from them from that list of what you might want to try. So I like that capability as well. One is great and the other one is just okay. Yeah, I mean, they'll vary between the pens too because they are what they are. But it's good when you try different things and then you can find the ones that sort of work, right? Like especially like shimmer inks with certain pens. Like for me, I feel like I will use a shimmer ink with a TWSBI because I've had no issues with that. And I will also use it with Franklin Christoph pens because Franklin Christoph pens and nibs, the feed somehow is like wide enough, or just like how it's constructed for me. I feel like I can use shimmer inks and not have an issue. So definitely play around with your pens and your inks because sometimes you find just the perfect combination. There's a currently inked, oh, now that you said it, there's a currently inked section in Fountain Pen Companion. Yes, actually, I have seen that. I just don't use that capability, but yeah, I have seen it. You get archives and notes of what you tried. Yeah, for sure. Just scribble on the sticker to see it. Yeah. You do need to organize your inks, fountain pen use. How many inks do you have? Pelican Golden Lapis. It is nice. Yeah, you have a cheat sheet. You mixed Yamabudo and Adrianople, and it's so pretty. Oh, okay. I like the shimmers a lot. Diamine usually so far. Yeah. Benu also handles shimmer well. Oh, I do. I have a couple of Benus with fine nibs, but oh, that's awesome to know. Can I copy your notably inked idea? Yes, for sure, fountain pen use. I'm trying to get notably inked spreads as kind of like a norm because, and I'll tell you why. If you're not familiar with my notably inked versus currently inked, I'll show you on my, I wrote this, I have a Substack blog and I wrote this post for March, and it's called Notably Inked Fountain Pens, and I had to kind of explain that I have a distinction in my currently inked fountain pen lineup where some of them are notably inked, and I came up with this concept or this like naming them that because for me, I'm one of those people that I will always have I think about 6 to 7 fountain pens that will always be inked up, but they will always be inked up with one type of ink, and it's usually like a black or brown or a blue black, something that's like, you know, a generic kind of color. And it's also based on the nibs that they have in them. And so I have like 6 or 7 different fountain pens with different nibs with different inks, and they will always be currently inked. And I feel like that sets me up for, like, if I add any fountain pens on top of that, I always, like, people wonder why I need 15 inked fountain pens. And I always kind of have to justify, like, there are always 6 or 7 that will be inked up because they have specific purpose. They have, like, I use them for something specific. And so it's like, they're not going to change every month, right? And so when I'm doing a currently inked spread, the way I do it is usually with these flowers, if you haven't seen them before. And I feel like I don't want to do it with like 15 fountain pens if 6 of them are going to be the same every month. And so fountain pen use, you can definitely use that and try and make it like a norm where we're like, you know what? You may have 15 fountain pens inked up, but for me, it's only like 6 to, 8 or so that I change every month because of the inks that I want to play with that month. Maybe there are certain nibs that I want to play with that month. And it's kind of that combination of nibs and inks that I change month over month that keep me engaged and interested in using fountain pens and having fun with them when I'm journaling, when I'm writing, when I do long form writing, and trying out different like styles of hand lettering or printing. So I'm a huge fan of hand lettering, and I play around with different styles of writing. And so I feel like Notably Inked is like my way of, I only need to swatch or create the spread with like 6 to 8 fountain pens, and it's like so much more manageable and doesn't make me sound like someone who needs like 15 fountain pens every month. So yeah, that's my little spiel. So definitely, if you're one of those people who you have you have 35 ink this month, Bailey, down from 49. That's amazing. Indy, you have 24, all with different inks. Yes, because you like play with them, right? Oh. Add a skeleton to our collection. And we need to add a skeleton to our collection. Oh, yeah. I want to bring back my currently inked to 20, ideally. Fountain pen news, you hit it on the head. Like for the algorithm, we still have to say currently inked, but then add notably inked. I know. Or when you're creating a post or like content around it, you still kind of have to like put in currently inked somewhere in there, because that's what people recognize, right? But I always kind of have to add in like currently inked also includes pens that I just will always have currently inked. So when I'm creating a spread or like for the sake of showing off what I have, it's like, I don't know if I want to bring them out every month or every, time I do this. You have too many inks that you want to use, Bailey. Yeah, don't we all? You have every pen inked all the time, basically, fountain pen use. I used to have a lot of pens inked up. And I kind of dwindled it down to the fact that like I only have a certain amount of time to play with or like to use my fountain pens. And it's only in like certain journals or books. And so I'll only use pens to a certain extent. So the more that I have currently inked, I know personally I will use them less than if I kept the number, like, if you kept your number low, then you're more likely to use them more often than if you had more inked. But the problem that I think we all get ourselves into is that we have so many inks and so many nibs and so many different pens that we want to play with, that we want to use. And so they end up getting inked. But the other thing too is if you have this sort of notably inked distinction, or you can call it whatever you want, right? But like ones that are specially inked for you for that month, you sort of focus on a set number per month. And so month over month, you can change up those pens and those inks. And so if you're not playing with a certain pen this month, it doesn't mean that you can't bring it out next month and replace a pen that you've been using a lot this month. And for me, that kind of works like a rolling sort of getting through my pens that I really like. A skeleton. Yeah, we do, but I can't afford 15K for the Mont Blanc one. Yeah, I know. Sometimes we have to find, unless you won the lottery, but until then we have to find something that's similar that we can get. You do have the two boring ones. Oh, this is how I write spicy miso. Oh, nice. Share this. You have great writing style. That's so neat, and wow, I like it. It's very nice. Someone asked me, actually, I skipped over the comment. Someone asked me if I like kanpeki. Spicy miso. Do I like kanpeki? I actually do like it. I have a small bottle of it. Pilot Irishizuku inks are the inks that I go to when I have a new pen and I just want to test it out, play with it, sort of get used to the ink, to the nib and to the pen. And so kanpeki is a really good blue to use in a new pen. I also use Tsukiyo, which is probably like my all-time favorite standard blue-black, like sort of like a really good, reliable go-to ink. Especially because it has that like interest to it. It's, you know, it's not like a blue, it's not a black, it's somewhere in between and it's a dark color. And so yeah, Irishizuku inks are like my go-to inks for new pens, and I have used kanpeki in some of my new pens that I'm just, like, I just want a blue in it and write with it. Yeah, this is really nice. Amarillo. And it's not as bright, it doesn't look like. Maybe. High five, Tsukiyo. Yes. Tsukiyo is such a great ink. You were thinking of saving up for it, Jessie? Might not be worth it at the moment. Maybe another time though. You just tried Asagao and I like it more than my Amarillo. Oh, interesting, Bailey. I have heard a lot of good things about both inks, to be fair though. Your current fave is Toro and Tsutsuji. Yes, Tsutsuji is that one of the inks that are going away or like have been retired? I think I have a sample of it, but very nice. Yeah, me and Etherak are using kanpeki this week right now. Nice. Yeah, it's a good ink. Yeah, okay, Tsutsuji is... Oh, yeah. I know, it's a good ink, though. Also bought Ajisai. That's a fun take on blue. Yeah, there's so many, like, especially if you're into blue, or like the family of like blue, greens, teals, things like that. I find like there's some really good options of like bright blue to, you know, like blue black, the darker end of that spectrum of, you know, what's available. And I personally tend to go for blues. It's just like, it's a cooling color for me. It's like my, I feel very, I guess grounded. Like I feel like blue is like a good fundamental color for me. And having like variations of it, like, you know, Tsukiyo and stuff like that is like really nice. But also the Pilot Blue ink is really nice too. I think it came with my 823 and I was like, oh, I don't know if I would use this that much, but the Pilot Blue I have it in my vintage Parker, is really, really nice. Especially because it's one of those, like a vintage pen is one of those pens I will probably not play around with inks too much in. I'd rather just stick to like a good standard blue and keep re-inking it. So that's kind of what I do. I love blue, but I'm just over blue. Yeah. I totally get that too, Bailey. I get it. when you're over blue. When I'm over blue, I mean, I have a couple of blues always kind of inked up, just a variation of it. But I kind of like, I kind of tend to go teal and then green, or I try and push myself and go like the purple route. So you could do that too. And just kind of branch out from there. I will say it, I hate the classic blue used in school. Yes. Asagap, yeah. Or Asagao, yeah. Especially like if it reminds you, like I used a lot of blue and blacks in school. The standard black ink, you know, the standard sort of classic blue color, I'm kind of a little bit over, but the I guess because I'm so used to using those colors, I kind of keep them in my rotations. So I do like having, you know, blacks, different black inks, like pigment inks and things like that, in my currently inked lineup. And then I always tend to have a couple of blues, even though like Bailey, I'm kind of over it a little bit. I still have to have blue. My only FWP 85 milliliter bottle, and I'm happy that I got it. That I got that format. Yeah. Auburn in Autumn. That's a nice color for sure. I do like the burnt orange. I like the burnt orange, like the yellow brown color. My favorite sort of yellow brown is Robert Oster Honeybee. And it's kind of like, if I'm thinking of going bright like a yellow, there are bright yellows obviously, but like to try and keep it legible and go a little bit closer to like a burnt or brown color, I feel like that's kind of where I end up going. Blue ink isn't as fun anymore unless it glitters. Yeah. Unless there's some sort of interest to it. Yeah. The Canadian store has a bunch of them. Yeah. Jessie, I hate the big blue ink. Ugh. Just memories of big blue. Standard. Golden lapis is nice. You're gonna order a big bottle of it. Yeah, I feel like golden lapis is just so good. So good. The punchy bright blues or the non-standard navy blues. Yeah. Definitely. Like either go all in on the blue or do the like blue-ish kind of shades. I like teals too, so teals, greens. So if blues kind of tend to lean that way, I'm drawn to them. Yeah, don't wait too long to get these inks, especially if they're like the year, the ink of the year or whatever. I want to get Diamond Yellow strictly for mixing, not to write with. Yeah. I feel like I have a few inks that I would rather just like paint with or mix them with. And it's usually like the muted or like bright colors where I'm kind of like, or, you know, like soft pastel colors. They are great to paint with. Some of my most favorite floral paintings I've done, or like sort of abstract art that I've done, are with like those pastel, really soft colors, because they mix well and they sort of like, you can blend other colors with them. But yeah, legibility wise, no. Especially if it's like you know, bright yellow or true yellow. Your favorite blue ink has to be Robert Oster Australian Sky Blue. Diamine Blue Lightning. I don't think I've tried Blue Ice either. Is that a shimmer ink, Bailey? Jesse, your favorite blue is Konpeki? Yeah, it's a classic blue, like bright, you know, if you want a blue, it's a blue. KWZ walks over Vistula is a pretty good close. And a little cheaper. It is hard to find a cool fountain pen yellow ink. Yeah. All the yellows are warm. Tumbling Blue from FWP. That and Shogun are my favorite shimmer inks. Yeah. Oh, it has some red sheen. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I see. Tumbling Blue. I think I have that. What? Let me see. Tumbling Time. Yeah. Let me just pull out my... Let me see. Blue. Yes, Riveting Pond by Ferris Press is really nice. It's like a soft blue with really nice shimmer, actually. Wait, do I have Tumbling Time? Maybe I don't have it. You know what's another good blue is the Yoseka Minkonkwe blue. That one's a really good one too. Like in terms of like really bright blues. Lake of Fire by Robert Oster. It's a darker blue with like a reddish sheen to it. It's really nice. Yeah, maybe I don't have it. Tumbling Time Blue. Oh, I see it. Ah, wow. Look at that shimmer. I like buttered popcorn. Oh, a yellow, yes. Yeah. Wearing Gold Alice is nice too, yeah. I do have my inks by color. That way, if I'm into like, when I'm trying to figure out what, these are my ink bottles. So if I want to ink up a fountain pen, I just go in here and I'm like, oh, I feel like this kind of color or the shade or, you know. I do have Wearing Gold Alice as well. And that's a really nice blue too. Oh, that one. Like a gold shimmer to it. Yeah. Can't see. Move your window. Yours is in the order you get them. Amazing. Yeah. So you know how you know, your first few inks, and then you can see your evolution of inks that you then end up with. Ooh, I might need to get a sample of Tumbling Time. Yeah, you never know, Bailey. It might be on the chopping block. Because they have so many inks, right? Especially shimmer inks. Like Ferris Press puts out like 2 inks per month, I think it is. I just recently, like a few months ago, I stopped. I sort of took a break from their ambassador program, their Jubilee program, but they were sending like 2 or 3 inks per month, and it's a lot. It's a lot of ink. And after a while, it's kind of like I kind of like having time to play with inks and enjoy them instead of just watching and then like moving on to the next set. So yeah. You need structure and order, Bailey. And you just want to swatch them, Indy. You just get them down. However you sort of document, the way that you document, if it works for you, then it's totally fine. Yeah. Wearing Ghoul was popping off for a while. I guess they kind of are too, but I don't think they release inks as often as like Ferris Wheel Press does. So I wonder if that's kind of why they may have also sort of slowed down on how many they were releasing. But I do like the sets that Wearing Ghoul releases. I have the Romeo and Juliet 2 inks, and I have the whole set of Alice in Wonderland, which like they're really nice shades. So I ended up getting like the whole set of them. But I can't say I have too many more of Wearing Ghoul inks, although I do appreciate them. Yeah, added to your try list. It's mostly by color. Yeah, it also depends on like if you buy like batches of the same or similar colors or from a similar color family. And yeah, they are so cool. I'm a weirdo. If mine gets off, I will re-swatch it all again. Yeah, I totally get it, Bailey. And we're a little bit neurotic or quirky sometimes too with, like having to switch up our systems and stuff. Like I find that part of me is like, I like to switch up my system a lot. And when I kind of cycle through different ways of doing things. And initially I had swatches in a notebook, so I would swatch by color family in a notebook, and then it just really frustrated me when I ran out of pages for a color family, and then I would have to flip to the next available page. And so that's why this using a plotter or like a binder or something like that is helpful for me, because then I can just add paper in the correct order in where I feel it needs to go, so that they're all kind of in one section, right? So we all kind of have those like quirky, like what works for us, what's aesthetically pleasing to, like what looks good to us too. One of my favorite Wearing Ghoul ink to date is the Nightingale and the Rose. Oh, nice. The Nightingale and the Rose. Nice. That one is nice. Let's see. There we go. Very nice. I love this like rose gold shimmer. A light brown braid with striking red glitter. Yeah, that's really, I like it. Diamine Memory Lane. A lavender shimmer. Now we're getting into like the different combinations of shimmers and stuff. Or duochrome shimmers. Let's see. Oh, is that from the Ink Vent? Nice. Memory Lane. Very nice. It's not too like in your face. Do you do the ink vents every year? Is anyone not getting ink vent? I have to admit I have not done ink vent so far, but it's only because I know me, I'm going to get overwhelmed by trying to swatch them in December, even though I feel like I would need to. So I think it's like added pressure for me or something. I don't know. But, and also maybe because I don't want to be stuck with inks that I may not like and use, and then try and give them away or something. But maybe this is the year. And Colorverse does one too. I'm kind of intrigued to see what Colorverse does, or like what their inks will look like this year too, after like the first time of doing it. You got the big bottle of Memory Lane as soon as you tested it. Oh, that's awesome. I love that it sort of spoke to you that you wanted to get it. I do like that it's not too much. It's not too much, but it's really pretty. Shimmery browns are really nice. Yeah. I like Bishop to King ink more, but Memory Lane is a good one too. Bishop to King. Robert Oster. Ooh. Ah. That is nice too. I wait until it goes on sale the following year. Yeah, fountain pen use, that's a good way of doing it too. And plus you can see what the inks are if you want to. If you do want to get them. And also after Inkvent, they do release some of the inks. I think the most popular ones, so I do like the shimmers. Hi, Lieutenant Wheels. Yeah, are you talking about Inkvent going on sale? Like the Inkvents? I'm good. How are you? We're talking about inks, fountain pen inks that we like, fountain pens, nibs, all those things. And painting with fountain pen inks as well, which is something I did today. And yeah, being creative with fountain pen inks. What do you enjoy? Am I getting oh yes. Am I getting the Coffee Monsters Esterbrook, the TCMC Esty? Are you, Jessie? Yes, it's launching tomorrow. It's releasing tomorrow. And Bailey, are you getting it too? I am definitely getting one. I'm friends with Helen, and I absolutely 100% adore that she's done this collab with Esterbrook, and you're not. That's okay. And I love that they've done this collab and gotten together and put something together that really speaks to the coffee monster, like the coffee theme, but also what TCMC is. And I think aside from all of that, like I am biased because I love Helen and I love TCMC, but aside from that, I think the pen turned out really pretty. Like I think it's gorgeous. And yeah, if it's not your style, it's totally fine, but I love that it's like, and for me, like the Estes that I have, they range from like color, from I love that sort of cracked acrylic look, and I feel like this Esty is like different from my other Estes, that yeah, it's just gonna look really nice in my collection. So I am very excited for it. I'm excited for that collaboration, and I'm excited to see more pen brands do collaboration with other creators, with other creative brands, I love the crossover between stationery as well. TCMC being a sticker shop, starting out as a sticker shop, and now sort of going over to, providing pens, providing inks, right? Where Helen has done some ink collabs, which is like, I love to see that. I love to see how the community sort of has those crossovers and collaborations between creative people. So yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait for that to come out, and the events that are also happening around it, where Esterbrook is going to be at certain retailers. You can go and sort of experience that collaboration and look at the pen and stuff. I mostly like the section of that pen. Too bad the rest of the pen is not like the section. Yeah, I know. That would have made the pen really expensive though, or more expensive. And that's partly why Helen decided to go with the section only being that material, and a little bit on the band, I believe too, because that material, like Jonathan Brooks put so much into that, right? Creating that, and to have a whole pen made out of it would have been a hefty ask, I think. And even so, with the grip section being that material, I think there were conversations about whether or not it would have been doable for the price that they were going to price it at. So I'm glad they worked it out, and I'm glad that they went with some variation of that too. And getting the nib engraved too, with a little emoji, with a little face. I think that's special. And then getting journaler grinds on some of the nibs from Gina. I think that's awesome too. And just trying to pull together the community with people who have different skill sets to offer. You have two Estes and you love them. Yeah, the Estes are so comfortable. I think that cigar shape, as well as the material and just how an Esterbrook is put together, the Este is a really great pen for me too. Oh, how is a standing desk 3 hours in, right? I like seeing how long I can sort of stretch this out, because I think I'm starting to get a little fidgety, getting a little fidgety standing, but I'm fine. I think actually I prefer the standing desk for streaming now. I feel like I can move around and I can grab things that I need to, just because my desk is not super big. And I can only have certain things on here without it getting a little crazy. But I can also reach for things, and I don't feel like I have to roll my chair around to, grab stuff. So thanks for checking in though. I think I need fidget toys. That's what I need. I need to have fidget toys. But I think for my next streams, I think I will still do the standing desk, because I can just kind of move around and stand and grab things. And I have 4 Jonathan Brooks Leonardo pens, and they are your favorites. Yeah, not cheap, but awesome, right? Worth the cost, but you do have to think about the cost. Fidget toys, 100%. Yeah, I do. My kids have tons of fidget toys that I can grab a few. Which I should do. So funny. But yeah, this has been so fun. I should actually log off soon, because I need to go have lunch and stuff before I have to grab the kids from school. But this has been so fun. Thank you so much for hanging out, and the conversations around inks and nibs and different pens and stuff. And I love hearing from other people about what works for them, right? Like even if not necessarily something I would use, or I can't have all of the inks, but I kind of like seeing, what people are, the different inks people are into, and the different colors and styles and stuff. So I love that like everyone was able to share that. Yeah, no worries for the stream. I'm so glad you were here. And let's see if Brian Anderson is on. I tried, I think it was on Wednesday. I thought Brian was going to be on, and I was like, Brian is his stream. If you don't know Brian Anderson, he streams about like repairing and working on pens while he's like working on pens. And so you can kind of like ask him questions about your pens and nibs and Mike is streaming Atlanta on YouTube. Yeah, go check that out if you're curious about I actually want to see that too. Streaming Atlanta. I like his stream too. Yeah. It's interesting, right? Like it's fun to ask questions and stuff like that. Did Mike just start streaming Italian? Or has he been kind of already been streaming? It says like 15 minutes. Yeah. I don't know how long he'll be. I don't know how long he'll be streaming, but you know what? If you want to go watch Mike, go do that. I might try and catch a little bit of his if I can. But let's see. I really want to try rating a channel, because I've never done it. In the few times that I've been streaming, I haven't rated a channel, so I'm going to try and do that. If you want to come along, or you can drop off and go do what you need to do, go play with Stationery, go watch Mike, and tell him we're feeling FOMO over not being in Atlanta. But yeah, thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you next week on the stream. I appreciate you. If you're watching the replay, thank you so much for being here, and I'll catch you on another stream.